Oh, okay. I haven't talked to
If I get your number, I can text either a consumer and I need a hurricane report from the beach tomorrow.
Hi, baby.
But you have to be things later.
Like I said, I just had to clean it up.
And Dan, you got Dan there too. Yeah. I know.
Governor was
Well, I wonder why they closed the stores tomorrow and Friday already.
Here, did they? I didn't catch 12 hours.
Oh, I just.
I think some of them were, I was hearing Wednesday and Thursday.
I have to send it to you. I didn't know what this is. I'm not a parent. I tell you, the only thing is, did I ever send you the cartoons? I did. I think I did. It was really cute.
Parents wanted back.
You know what? Not that I agree with everything.
That's what I was thinking.
Well, to him, it has to stay with him.
I had to all exercise to come
Turkey seminars.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello, hello.
We'd like to call to order. Did everyone hear this? We'd like to call to order the regular city commission meeting for September 5th, 2017. Please have roll call.
Commissioner Battle? Here. Commissioner Drosky?
Here.
Commissioner Parnes?
Here.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Here.
Mayor Gans?
Here. If we'd have everyone please stand for a moment of silence and our pledge of allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to have approval of city commission meeting minutes for August 15th, 2017.
Motion to approve those minutes?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those nays say nay. I'd like the acknowledgement of city board minutes for the community appearance board meeting minutes for July 12th and August 9th, 2017. Community redevelopment agency meeting minutes for June 13th and August 8th. Fire pension board meeting minutes for September 9th, December 2nd, 2016, February 24th of 2017, and the P&Z board minutes from August 26th, 2016, November 30th, 2016, February 1st, 2017, and May 12th, 2017.
I'd like to acknowledge the minutes of their mentioned different committees.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those against say nay. All right, now we have our approval of our city commission meeting agenda.
Yeah. I'd like to make a motion with the idea of tabling number 4, and I'd like number 6 to take number 4's place in order of what we're doing tonight.
Number 5, Jeff got number 5 in table as well, so that would have to automatic.
Okay, yeah. If we could do it just as stated, make a motion for that effect?
So we're going to table 4 and 5.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Vice Mayor, can you clarify what you'd like on number 6, please?
Did you want to move it up ahead?
Actually, I was just hoping it would take the place of number 4 in the order, like it would come up at that point, but if we're taking off 4 and 5, it'll just move up automatically, so it's not necessary.
So we have a motion on the floor to table indefinitely number 4 and number 5 on the agenda. We have a
Yes.
second?
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle? Commissioner Drosky?
This is to approve the agenda? No.
Commissioner Parnas? Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gans?
Yes. One item we do have before this, and do we want to do this, Dylan, do we want to do this declaration first? Or we want to do it in order?
Yeah, no, the first item of substantive item of business must be the millage rate.
Excellent. Go ahead.
As the first item of business pursuant to state law, the commission will adopt the tentative millage rate. The second public hearing will adopt the final millage rate. Be aware that the tentative millage rate that you adopt tonight can be reduced but cannot be increased. The ordinance in question is an ordinance adopting the millage rate to be levied by the city of Deerfield Beach, Florida for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, and stating the percentage change in property taxes as such change is defined in Florida statutes section 200.065. The fiscal year operating millage rate is 6.0981 mils as adopted herein, which represents an increase of 8.89% over the rollback rate under Florida law and is characterized as the percentage increase in property taxes pursuant to Florida statute section 200.065. The millage rate hereby adopted and levied in order to produce sufficient ad valorem taxation revenue, which when combined with other projected general revenues will be adequate to pay the appropriations made in the budget for the fiscal year beginning on October 1, 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, shall be an operating millage rate of 6.0981, a voted debt millage rate of 0.4026, total millage rate of 6.5007, and as indicated pursuant to Florida statutes, that is an 8.89% increase over the rollback rate, which is characterized as the percentage increase in property tax. This would be the subject of a public hearing. And at the end of the public hearing, you would then adopt what you, the tentative millage rate as you deem appropriate.
City Manager, do you want to speak first on this before we go?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Vice Mayor, members of the City Commission and audience, thank you very much for being here tonight. We have prepared a presentation for the public prior to the items number 1 and number 2 being brought forward for the public to be heard. We'd like to ask the City Commission's permission to allow staff to give that presentation and then take it to public to be heard. If that's okay, Mr. Mayor?
They're not, the commission has any problem with that?
All right,
Go right
thanks. So, Mr. Dunkley?
Good evening, Mayor Gads, Vice Mayor Miller. I was actually surmising that the millage ordinance would be read and approved first, but I was ahead of myself in assuming. But in terms of the budget presentation, it is always our pleasure to bring to you the spending plan for the upcoming year. And as you've evidenced with the budget work session, staff has put a considerable amount of time and attention to the spending plan for the upcoming year. Essentially, the budget for the upcoming year totals $179 million for all of the city's funds. Essentially, what that gives us is the fact that, bear with me, I'll stick this aside here. So the increase in the total budget is slightly over $7 million. But before we go into the minutia, I would like to point out some of the major funds and how they relate to each other. As depicted by the chart, the largest fund of the city is the general fund, of which the budget for the upcoming year is $104 million. After that, we have the utility operating fund, then the solid waste operating fund. These funds coupled together are what the city has the most amount of control over the top three funds, the general fund and the utility operating fund, as well as the solid waste fund. The other funds essentially are either restricted as to the use of their funding or the manner in which the expenses can be spent. I'll go on a little bit further down in the presentation to distinguish between all of these various types of funds. In terms of the funds total, as can be seen here, the greatest increase is that of the general fund, and which is typically the case. The increase in the other funds are either minuscule or they're projected towards specific capital items, such of what we'll explain later. The general fund budgetary highlights: the property taxes is increased by 7.6%. We have chronicled that to some extent, and as we have indicated, the main driver for that is the increase in the taxable value or the assessed value of property. We have noticed, however, from our standpoint, that the property appraisers, their indication of what our new construction, we feel that it could be a bit higher, in a sense that we have looked at some of the properties and we have discovered, or at least we feel, that that number could be higher. But the major increase was due to the increase in the assessed value of property. We have a good increase in building permits as well as communication service taxes. The local absent sales tax was pretty much unchanged from a projection standpoint. And the reason for that is, according to the Department of Revenue, the per capita or the growth in our population was not as great, as well as compared to other areas in the state. Another reason why the absent sales tax revenue was relatively unchanged was the fact that the hotel accommodations was far less than what had been projected or in the previous year. The general fund revenues, the property tax makes up the bulk of the general fund revenues, followed by charges for services and utility taxes and what have you. So this just gives a quick depiction of what comprises the general fund revenues. The taxable value chart here, it's kind of a telling statistic. During the boom years, we had, even to this day, we have not reached the level of taxable value that we had in the years of plenty. We are getting there, though, but we've still not reached the taxable value level that we had in 2008. And feel free to interject if you have any questions. I don't want to ramble on aimlessly. In terms of the ad valorem tax revenue, that typically has a direct relationship with the taxable value of property. And as we see here, it's been increasing for the past 5 or 6 years. The total tax collections, this particular slide I would like to preface, because we have had countless queries and public records requests regarding the fact that we indicated on the CAFR that we're collecting 99%, but yet we're budgeting at 95%. The CAFR figure includes all of the tax collection, including delinquencies and insolvencies and tax certificates, which come in well after some tax certificate sales, the proceeds coming after the tax collection period. So without saying, the tax collection percentage for the city is 95.7%. The state mandates that we cannot budget less than 95%, and hence the figure of 95% that you typically see in the budget. I know that individuals have stated that we could budget at 98%, but as all of us know, have experience with a mortgage, the mortgage servicers, they typically pay the taxes in November. So what we do is when we factor in the discounts of 4%, errors and insolvencies and what have you, that takes us to the 95% collection figure. The millage rate history, we've been pretty, we've stayed the course with our millage rate, and we've tried to keep it at a level that we feel is not only competitive but will not burden the taxpayers. This year is no different. The city manager is recommending a millage rate of 6.5007, a total millage rate.
Mr. Dunkley, can you pause for one moment? Can I just remind everyone to please turn your phones off, or at least turn your ringers off? Please put them on silent or vibrate. I appreciate that. Not to embarrass you, ma'am. You're not the only one. Don't worry.
As indicated here, the recommended millage broken down in terms of operating and debt. I know that we have a full house here this evening, but what at times people forget is that the city only makes up a portion of your total tax bill. And this chart, or this pie chart, depicts how your tax dollars are, where they go. The city is essentially about a third of your total tax bill. And usually between the city and the school board, they are the highest percentage. In terms of the average value of single-family homes, we still lag behind the county somewhat. And it's a blessing and a curse. And the blessing is that if your values are lower, you pay less taxes. The corollary now is that if you pay less taxes, it constrains the degree to which the government can provide services, parks, trails, things of that nature, fire protection, fire and police protection. So we find ourselves in a position that we would like to increase the average assessed value to at least the county average. So how do we calculate our taxes? I know that's been an often asked question, and the calculation of your tax bill is simply you take your assessed value less whatever pertinent exemptions, and you come to your taxable value, after which you will divide that by 1,000 and apply the tax rate. People say, well, why 1,000? And essentially it's from the term mill, it's per 1,000. So we're going to tax you 6.5 mills for each $1,000 of taxable value. If you might look over to property C, you say, well, that doesn't appear fair because this guy, he's not getting the full 50,000 exemption. And the reason for that is the state statute provides for an additional homestead exemption of $25,000 only to the extent your assessed value exceeds $75,000. So this person here is only going to get $25,000, the exemption on the first $25,000, and then any amount over $50,000 up to $75,000. But in even examining your total tax bill, we tend to say, well, oh, wow, we're paying so much in taxes. What can we parallel this to? And a good parallel is the usual consumer goods that we purchase on a daily basis. And let's see, we have a gallon of gas, which I have to confess, I've changed that number numerous times since the announcement of the hurricane. So it was well below that amount, but for the sake of discussion, it's $2.69. Sunday newspaper, $3. Fast food meal, looks like a Big Mac, it's $5.23. So it appears that most types of consumables or consumer goods exceed what a daily tax bill is. And to put that into perspective, we're getting fire, police protection, bear with me there, fire, police protection, we get Parks and Recreation, all of the above for only $2.03. And if there is some dire emergency at your home, either the public safety guys will show up. I think that's a bargain, from our standpoint. Moving on to the other major revenues, as I'm going to go through these slides fairly quickly, and what these next few slides portend is that these represent our major sources of revenues, and for the most part, they've been trending up. We have the public service tax, and I would like to preface this by saying, since we have instituted this tax in fiscal 2012, if I'm not mistaken, we have seen a good amount of diversification in our revenue base. We have placed less reliance on the property tax as a source of revenue, and this has helped us out to even more so decrease the tax burden on the residents. Franchise taxes, that's fairly level. That's the greatest of which is the FP&L franchise fees. Moving on, building permits, that's been in lockstep with the increase in the building activity and what have you. It's a significant valuation, which we do hope to bring on the tax roll in the very near future. State shared revenue, as I indicated earlier, the absent sales tax was somewhat below what we had expected. Typically, the increase is in the hundreds of thousands, and we were somewhat dismayed by the state's indication that this amount would not be increased for the upcoming year. The expenditures, general fund expenditures, the greatest of which is the operating expense. And when you look at between operating expenditures and personal services, those two jump out at you the most. And it begs the question, well, what's included in those two figures? And without saying, I'll quickly indicate that public safety costs represent a good portion, as in most municipalities. We're not unique. The public safety, which is fire and police, makes up the largest portion of our total general fund expenditures. It represents 55 million roughly out of 104. And the increase in those particular components are due to the collective bargaining agreements, which the city has, to some extent, we have no control. In terms of other expenditures, we do have a 2.5% COLA planned across the board for all of our employees. In addition to the police and fire costs, we do plan to have to add a tactical deployment team, which will be partially funded by grants from the Department of Justice. There is an increase of $370,000 in contractual services as a result of the increase in building permit activity. Aside from that, we do have additional increases in debt service costs as a result of the planned bond issue, which will be brought before you this evening. The BSO contract costs, the increases have been minimal at best, no greater than 4%, except for this year, it's slightly over 4%, but the costs have been leveling off. In terms of leveling off, what I would like to point out are pension costs, which those have leveled off significantly since fiscal 2012, when the fire pension firefighters defined benefit plan was closed. As you could see, there was a significant spike in 2012, and it has leveled off significantly, so much so that over the past 4 to 5 years, we have seen, if you look at the fire plan, the fire pension contributions have essentially decreased. And I know that a lot of pundits out there have said, oh, the city is going broke in the fire plan. But if you notice, it's exactly what the city had intended, to have the cost to normalize or to level off. And we are seeing that now more than ever with these graphs. The municipal fire rescue comparison is indicated here. If you look at the relative population for each city, you look at the square miles as well, and you look at the number of personnel, and you see that there is a stark difference in the calls for service as well as the number of personnel that's responding to those surveys. The city is significantly behind some of our neighboring municipalities in terms of total personnel as compared to our population. So essentially, what the notion is, we're doing more with less. I don't know if the city manager wants to jump in. I don't. Okay. The general fund, but if we go back, we say, well, if we take our total revenues, the total expenses, and what is the net effect? The net effect is our fund balance. And over the past 10 years, we have seen some highs and lows. In 2012, we had a significant decline, and it so happened that, of course, that was during the recession. But what we've found is that we've increased the fund balance, which was our aim. Moody's Investors Service, they recommend no less than 10% of your total general fund balance, expenses and revenue and transfers to be reflected as your unassigned fund balance. And we have met and surpassed that amount. It is our aim to keep that level. Bless you. Thank you. It is our aim to keep that level, so that way not only will enhance our credit whenever it comes time for us to issue debt or what have you, but what that signifies is that we're being fiscally prudent with the taxpayers' resources. The special revenue funds, as I indicated earlier, those are usually constrained by donor-imposed restrictions. As indicated here, the state grants, state and federal grants, we have private donors. These individuals, they essentially have restrictions that constrain us in the manner in which we spend the funds. The special revenue funds at a glance are senior services, CDBG grant fund, and the road and bridge fund. The road and bridge fund is funded by fuel taxes, state revenue sharing funds and administrative fees to the utility fund. Moving on, the enterprise funds, those are operated in a manner similar to for-profit enterprises, and essentially the only major difference is, which we do have shareholders, they're the citizens themselves, but we don't calculate earnings per share, we don't go into all of that, and we don't try to build up a profit. What we try to do is recover our costs primarily. The enterprise funds are, at a glance, the highest of which is the utility operating fund, which was indicated earlier. In terms of the budgetary highlights, the enterprise fund, those will remain constant for the most part, the water and sewer. The only thing I wanted to indicate is that the water and sewer rates have not changed in over roughly 9 years. We've kept the same water and sewer rate for that length of time. The solid waste is the sanitation fund. That's going to see an overall decrease of 3% as a result of decreases in planned purchases for vehicles. We did adjust the rate downward, and we're trying to employ all of the mechanisms that will enable this fund to thrive even with a decreased rate structure. And there is a planned COLA of 2.5% across the board. Last but not least, we have our insurance services fund. And the difference between this fund is that it simply acts as a reservoir for the city's risk, health, dental, general liability. It pays all of the pertinent claims, and then it charges off all of those costs to the user departments. There will be an increase within this fund itself because of the typical nuances of healthcare, that the trend is usually trending upward, and we have an increased provision for general liability claims. And that basically is the end of my presentation. Any questions that you might have, I'm
Thank you, Mr.
here
Dunn.
to.
Anyone have any questions from the commission? City manager, you have any further comments before we open up to the public? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dunkley.
Likewise.
I'd like to open the public portion to be heard on this item. Anyone from the public like to come up?
Is this the millage and the budget, or just the millage?
Just the millage rate. Just your name and address and city and state for the record, please.
Dan Hurst, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue, Deerfield Beach, Florida. Let me preface my remarks by saying I pray that everybody will be safe from this hurricane, and that the numbers that we're going to talk about right now don't change because of bad things coming. With that said, I just wanted to go over the operating millage for the city of Deerfield Beach for the last few years. 2010, operating millage 5.35. 2011, 6.25. Then for the next 2 years, the utility tax came along, and we were promised a reduction in operating millage, and we got it. 2012 and 13, it went down to 5.18. 2014, right back up to 6.23. 2015, back up to 6.27. 2016, 6.19. 2017, 6.05. 2018, proposed 6.10. I attended a very interesting workshop on June 5th, 2017. It was the City Commission Strategic Planning Workshop. I took very good notes. I'd like to remind a couple of the quotes that came out of that meeting. Commissioner Parnes said, in regards to property taxes, we need to keep the businesses healthy. Commissioner Miller said, we need to lower the ad valorem taxes to entice people to stay or move here. Well, I agree with both of those comments, but unfortunately I see that did not come to pass. Now, you all may say, listen, this guy, he's always speaking, he's a rabble-rouser, he doesn't know anything. But I do want to refer to you to the economic development strategy that the city paid a lot of money for, that was prepared by Dr. Edward Murray. And on page 8 of this report, under weaknesses of the city of Deerfield Beach, the second item that he has on his list is relatively high millage rates. Now again, this isn't me talking, this is Dr. Edward Murray. That's all I have to say on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak on this item? Not seeing anyone like to close the public portion to be heard. Anyone from the commission like to comment? Commissioner Drosky?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As far as the millage goes, I mean, the millage and the budget, they all kind of tied together, so it's hard to speak about one without mentioning the other. But I do want to emphasize what Mr. Dunkley alluded to in his presentation, that what we're doing here tonight affects roughly 1/3 of your property taxes. If we're serious, about reducing our taxes, then we have to speak out at these other meetings that are on your trim notice as well. This is my personal trim notice that I bought with me tonight, and I did the math, and the county commission is 23% of my bill. The school board is 32%, and the city of Deerfield Beach, including, I threw in the fire fee for fun, was 33%. So 88% of our tax bill is in 3 governmental agencies. The other 12% is consumed by other governmental agencies on our tax bill. So if you're going to hold our feet to the fire, I suggest that you hold the school board and the county's feet to the fire as well. We're all in this together. Now, and I don't mind having my feet held to the fire, but Mr. Dunkley also pointed out that the proposed millage is the same as last year. So that doesn't mean that the budget stays the same. The property values have gone up. I just want to make sure that we're all clear. The property values have gone up. So even with a stable millage, the increase in the property values are causing the budget to go up, and that number was roughly $7 million. Now, what's included in that $7 million, just to recap from my review, because this is the budget here, these 2 binders that I get. When I was elected, I don't get a manual how to be a commissioner, how to read a budget. There's no course or CLE credit or Commissioner for Dummies booklet that I can read. I got to figure this out. So, and I read everything that I get, and it takes a lot of time. And what I figured, without going into every specific item, the $7 million, the big ticket items are, 1, personnel costs have gone up. A lot of that is because of the union and contractual that we have no control over. It was a commission before me. I have no control over that. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. The TDT, which is the Tactical Deployment Team, which is by BSO, that's basically, the city manager will correct me if I phrase it wrong, it's kind of like the undercover team that we have here in Deerfield Beach to expand that. They've produced great results for us here in Deerfield Beach. So expanding that for all of our public safety is a good thing in my opinion. BSO, we have 2 components. We have fire and we have police. Fire increased by 4.6%, police by 2.1%. And the other thing that I think that we have to keep our eye on the ball here in keeping this budget stable is it's easy to have a knee-jerk reaction and reduce this budget. And I may be in favor of that yet, but for tonight, we're basically voting to move this forward. I'm having a public workshop next Wednesday, hopefully weather permitting, about this issue, because I want to hear from the residents, what projects we want to do, what projects we do not want to do. So that's coming up. But what we have to keep our eye on the ball as well is that next year on the ballot, there's going to be a constitutional amendment to add an additional homestead exemption to your property bill. If that is the case and it gets passed, and I see no reason why it won't pass, everybody wants less taxes, that will probably result in close to $1 million reduction in taxes to the city of Deerfield Beach. So right off the top, we're at a 1 million loss going into next year, which really, we need foresight this year to plan for next year. We can't have $1 million less this year and then account for another $1 million next year. So all that we're doing tonight is approving a proposed millage, because the city attorney said we can't go over this particular number. We can go under, so I'd rather have the flexibility, I'd rather hear from the residents, and I'd rather hear what you have to say at the town hall meeting. So I would be in favor this evening of keeping the millage the same, knowing that we can always decrease it at our next meeting, but we can't increase it. So we can't go backwards. So I would rather decrease it at the next meeting than box ourselves in at this particular point in time.
Thank you, Commissioner Drosky. Anyone else? Just,
Make a motion to approve.
before that, if you may, if I could just make a comment regarding that. The point the gentleman made as far as from the economic development strategy is correct, that, relative high millage rate. Well, we do have a relative high millage rate if all things are compared to our neighbors and what they're looking at. One thing that we are pathetically behind in, if we're going to look at things being relative, it's the average assessed values of the home here in Deerfield Beach. As Mr. Dunkley pointed out, the average assessed value in 2017 for Broward County is $239,000. Deerfield Beach is $164,000. 151 is what he has. That's a huge differential between comparing us to other cities when it comes to our millage rate. That's why our millage rate is higher. There is no magic cure for providing services from one city to another. The cost of services are the cost of services. You will see changes and you will see variables that are different depending on which city you're in, slightly. But overall, when you're behind the average that far, that's a long ways to go to catch up. It's a long ways to go. And that burden fell on us entirely based on our property values. We did not have the utility tax until 2012. Many of the other municipalities, if we're going to be relative and compare, have had these for decades. Decades of being able to build up through using a utility tax to diversify the revenue stream. When Commissioner Miller and I first took office, 2009, that's when the market crashed. So when you're entirely dependent on your property values and you're already significantly behind the median average in Broward County, and then the bottom falls out of the real estate market and you don't have a utility tax in order to, use as a life preserver during these hard times, it's impossible to catch up in some ways. We managed to do that though. So as Commissioner Drosky pointed out, you do have to look ahead of what we're facing. You're looking at a potential cost of $2 million to fight for our beaches with the town and village of Hillsborough. You're looking at $1.5 million potentially, up to $1.5 million on the additional homestead exemption. These are things that are going to come out of the budget that we're going to have to account for. So I think it is prudent. Commissioner Miller's statement during our economic development strategy was 100% right. It's something we've all echoed and we all want to do. The goal is to lower the millage rate, to diversify, to have a robust economy here in the city, where we don't have to be as dependent on the taxes for our taxpayers. And we want to be prudent with our money, which I think we have been. I think it's unfair to put this also on the employees. People forget that when the times were tough and the bottom of the economy did fall out, we did have layoffs. We did have employees where we took back 5% of their pay. Now, granted, in the past, during the heyday of the 2000s, there were pretty lucrative union contracts out there. I'll be the first to tell you that. As a matter of fact, they don't even come close to what the private sector was. But our employees have gone many, many years without having a single increase, not a cost of living increase, not a merit increase. We put in a merit program. The way it used to be is our merit increases used to be if you showed up, you got a certain percentage. If you were the best employee or the worst employee, you got the same amount of merit. It's not the way merit's supposed to work. You're supposed to earn it. Good employees rise to the top. Your increase in salary goes up with that. And that's the way it works. That's the way it's supposed to work. We worked hard and negotiated with our unions and our workforce to make sure we had that in place. And it is fair. So for the first time in many years, we're doing this increase that, when people now, you'll have people say, well, gosh, you're balancing years ago, it used to be you're balancing the budget on the backs of our employees. And now they decide to flip the coin and say, well, now you're balancing the budget on the backs of the taxpayer. I have news for you. We balance the budget on the backs of the taxpayer all the time. That's the way it happens. I pay taxes. We all pay taxes here. And the taxpayers are the ones that pay our budget here. I think it's unfair to single out employees the way some people are doing and saying that they don't deserve what they're getting. When we did our study regarding our salaries, you have to be competitive in this market. And if you don't, you're not going to survive and you're not going to get the best employees. And I think we have some of the best employees out there. So I think they're deserving of what they have. We haven't gone as overly generous as it's been in the past because, quite frankly, we're being a little more frugal. And the money simply isn't there to do that. But I agree with Commissioner Drosky. We have to set the millage rate at what is being set tonight. There is room to go below, potentially. At least you'll have that opportunity, but you won't have the ability to go any higher. So based on the budget that's presented us, I understand why we're at this millage rate. You have a motion?
Yeah, thank you for your comments. I'd like to make a motion to pass the...
We have a motion and a second. We have roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle? Yes. Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gans?
Yes.
So you have adopted the tentative budget as read, the tentative millage rate, operating millage 6.0981, voted debt service millage rate 0.4026, and total millage rate 6.5007. That will be the subject of the second public hearing for the adoption of the final millage rate. The next is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach adopting the final budget for the fiscal year beginning October 2017 and ending September 30th, 2018, and providing an effective date. Again, this is the first reading of the first public hearing. You will adopt the budget and the tentative budget and the final budget at the next public hearing on this matter.
Anyone from the commission want to speak first before I open it to the public? Okay, I'd like to open this up to the public to speak on item number 2. Name, address, city, and state.
Good evening, Glenn Sullivan, 2377 Deer Creek Trail, Deerfield Beach. First, I'd like to thank Commissioner Drosky for addressing a long number of questions I had and those in the city that also provided answers. So, a couple of things that I saw in my many nights of looking at the budget. One thing is it's not zero-based, so we're effectively building from the previous budget. And the support package, unfortunately, I wasn't there at the meeting, but the detail that was in that package, or the 2-day package, was really insufficient to validate the needs for most of the funds that were in there. I guess I could have gone and asked questions, but that was my failure. Just to note, the increase in expenditures or the budget from the 2016 actual to this year is an increase of $23,319,000. That's in 2 years, from actual to budget. The 17-18 budget is $7,237,000. In 17, there was an increase of 10.5% on personnel expenses. In 18, and we understand that was to catch up to past freezes. This year, the personnel spending is going up 8.3%. And in going through a lot of the information, I found that there are numerous new management positions and upgrades, and in some cases there has actually been a reduction in supervisory span of control, some to as little as 2 employees. Before I go any further, on the collection percentage of 95%, if you get over that 95%, or when you get over that 95%, I would hope that you would put that in a reserve fund, that the public would understand what happens to those funds instead of them being released to the general fund. Just for some examples, the city manager created a program and innovation manager and at a high grade and downgraded as executive assistant. Let me see. There were 4 new positions, or 3 new positions in IT. One with a manager that I think supervised 2 people from an E16 2019. Numerous superintendents in the utilities created with less responsibility. So I came up with, just in the management realm, over $500,000, and that's not this year, that's a forever, because those positions will be there forever. So we need to really look at the creation of new management positions. May I have another minute? Please, yeah. City Commission, there's a 5.15 salary increase proposed. That seems kind of high, seeing that SSI, which many people in the city rely on, is probably going to get less than 2.2%. In other expenses, there was approximately $9,000 per employee for computers. I assume that everyone has computers today. I don't understand why $9,000 has to be spent on new computers. IT expansion, 3 new positions in another management position, and more anticipated in the future. So, is there a master plan for IT? Is it cost effective? Can we afford it? What are the future increases? I'd really like to see a master plan of the IT division before we go into any more beyond this budget. The building division is proposing $600,000 based on additional revenue. Do we have metrics to make sure that they are? No, I guess that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
My name is Joe Hines. I'm at 559 Northwest 47th Terrace. We heard earlier about discounting the amount collected using the 95%. Seems like the city keeps wanting to defend the undefensible. This last year, the CAFRA says that and this was a report issued from the state, said that the city received 99.5% of the total tax bill. But we keep using the 95%. This year, they use the 95% and they cut the tax money, but it should be collected from $42.7 million to $40.6 million, so there's a $2 million cut right there. Commissioner Drosky mentioned about the maybe some additional homestead going up next year, which would be nice, and said the city would be shorted $1 million. The calculation on ad valorem is on page 8. If you go right to the next page over there, page 9, under property taxes, budgeted for 2018, and this page here says the city is going to get $40 million, $40,652,000. On this page over here, though, they've already cut that number by another $1 million. So Commissioner, there's your $1 million right there. You know, we don't count all the money around here, and we use it against the citizens, and it's unfair. The millage rate could be cut. I'm not asking you to cut it, but I'm asking you to at least report the money you get honestly, because I feel like it's not open government. It's not fair. We're not treating it fair. We're treated as, you know, a bunch of stupid people who don't know what's going on, and it's not right. Thank you very much.
Dan Hers, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I love Deerfield Beach. I paid $33,400 in property taxes last year. I first bought property here in November 2000 near the beach and fell in love with this area. And I love the community activism that I saw in defeating excessive beachfront development. That is why it is so painful to see the mismanagement of the city and the lack of oversight. This budget is just another example that city officials have completely lost sight of who they work for, the citizens. Let's see who benefits the most from this year's budget. I see the City Commission has gone from actual salary and wages of $151,000 in fiscal 2016 to a 2018 budgeted amount of $219,000, a 45% increase. I see that total employee salary expense has increased another $2 million for 2018, another 8.3% increase. So that means in the last 2 years, salary expense has gone up $4.2 million. I see the unassigned general fund also benefits. It is forecast to be over $25 million, the highest ever in the history of Deerfield Beach. Now, surprising as it may sound, I couldn't care less if the employees received a 20% increase in salary every year. But if you are going to greatly reward one particular group at the expense of everyone else, that is the part that is incredibly unfair to the citizens of Deerfield Beach. If you are going to propose the highest unassigned general reserve balance in the history of Deerfield Beach, then it is crazy to expect no repercussions when you have the nerve to raise the millage rate by almost 9% in the same year. And I'm sure Mr. Muratis can re-explain the tax increase over the rollback rate for anyone doubting my numbers. This is simply a matter of fairness to the citizens of Deerfield Beach. Nothing more, nothing less. Believe me, the extra couple $100 that I personally would have saved with a lower millage rate is not going to make any difference in my life. But when city officials lose track of the fact that it is the citizens who are at the top of the Deerfield Beach organizational chart, it is up to someone to bring that to our elected commissioners' attention.
Anyone else from the public? I'd like to close the public portion to be heard then. Commission comments? No?
Do you want to comment?
Well, Commissioner Drosky's got his light on, let him go.
Like deja vu all over again. I don't want to rehash what I said before, but I mean, again, by approving the budget, that does give us flexibility to change it at our next meeting. We're not finalizing anything this evening. I try and anticipate the public's comments. You can't always anticipate what the public is going to say or not to say at a particular meeting. I try to do that, and I can't off the top of my head respond to these two binders to some of the comments that were made, but I know if the city manager wants to jump in, but there was a lot of reclassification of employees and moving folks around from department to department, so while one may go up, one may go down. So what may seem, black and white, that was said isn't necessarily so, but and I'd be happy to do that research and report back to you. But as far as tonight, I think the prudent move would be to give us the flexibility, that we need for our next meeting to approve the budget and to move forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Drosky. Anyone else care to comment on this? I will say this, and we've had two people come up to talk about the budget, and we've had many people that we talk to probably weekly, some of us daily perhaps, that have questions and concerns about the budget. I encourage the public to come out to it. We have more public workshops regarding our budget than most cities do. We certainly have more than we ever had in the past. We've been doing this now for several years. So we encourage people to come out, encourage people to ask questions. I ask them to ask questions rather than make accusations, because a lot of times it would save us from having to embarrass somebody by saying maybe they misread something, or their calculations are incorrect, or they didn't quite understand exactly what it is. So, when we have a citizen that has sent a long, lengthy email of questions they have, that's appreciated, because one, it keeps us on our toes and makes sure that we didn't catch or miss anything. I do not appreciate comments, while I respect the opinions of everybody to share them. I don't respect the comments that make accusations that seem like money's being hidden or put aside. All of this has been calculated by actuaries. All of this is thoroughly vetted by agencies that watch over us. This isn't some secretive thing in which money is hidden and you can't find it, and therefore we must have a secret stash or a second set of books. That's simply not the case. It's not the way it works. And if it was, I'm sure there would be people here more than happy to take us all away in shiny handcuffs if that were the case. It doesn't work that way. We are audited every single year, and the numbers have to be accounted for. The other thing is, I've heard this argument many times, really from the same person, about why we're collecting 95% or budget 95% instead of 98%. To me, that's a heck of a lot better than budgeting 100% and only getting 98% of your revenue, because at the end of the year, you're short. And that means you're having to make drastic changes at the end. that extra money that we take in that isn't accounted for in the budget, it does go somewhere. It doesn't magically appear in some mystery account that's not somewhere here in the budget. It is there. And most likely that kind of money, eventually it ends up being where the taxpayers have the ability to control that as well. So to me, I think it's more responsible to actually budget, to have a safe buffer that you might not collect the revenue that you could, and you're not accounting for it in the budget, because that means you're not spending it. And that's a good thing, I think. That's my opinion on that. Anyone else have any comments or concerns? I will add one more thing, and this is interesting. It tells you how deja vu happens. This is I found this in my office, 2010 Observer. Mill rate hike, reduced budget for Deerfield Beach. At that time, we went from a millage rate we approved to go to 6.76 millage rate. At the time, it was actually Mr. Hertz, who was here, was resident of Plantation, Dan Hertz at the time, but now he's resident of Deerfield Beach, so that's great. But he talks in here, it's the same thing. Mr. Hertz offered a number of suggestions for either cutting expenses or finding alternative sources of revenue. We even had former Mayor Gene Robb at the time call for cutting the millage rate to 6 and taking the additional $3.7 million out of reserves. That would have left us at that time a little over $7 million in our reserves if we had gone with that plan. Having $25 million in our reserves is a good thing. Eventually, that money is going to be put to use on things that are very important to this city. A potential $2 million lawsuit by a neighboring city, it's not exactly something every day that most cities have to deal with. That is something that we are potentially looking at. If you can think about what Wilma cost us, it was $14 million is what Wilma cost the city of Deerfield Beach at that time. That's a lot of money, and that came out of a multitude of different funds, but having good reserves and healthy reserves is a good thing. And that's part of the reason why we are in such good financial status that we are now today. So some things never change. I understand there's always the desire to lower the millage rate. I think we've been prudent with this. Costs are going to continue to go up, and there are certain costs that we simply do not control. And while we do control certain things when it comes to contracts, there are certain things that we have no control over. Health insurance costs and items like that are things that are and we've done a good job of actually trying to curb those costs. But those things, just like they do in the private sector, they constantly go up. Commissioner Drosky?
I want to continue. First of all, if possible, I'd like the city manager to put this presentation. Can we put this on the website for the residents? So the presentation that we had at the beginning of our meeting that we have in hard copy up here, I'd like to, for the residents to have that online. Since the mayor brought out audio visuals, I guess I wasn't going to, but I keep a collection of the newspapers as well and what the other cities are doing around us, and I grabbed them from my desk before I came down here. So every single one, everyone around us is increasing their budgets. We're holding, almost holding the line on the millage rate for sure. We've held the line, but for example, Sunrise fire fee is going up. Commission proves higher budget. That's and that was in Oakland Park, Sunrise. So every city you see around us in here is going up. We're basically holding the line, trying to be good stewards of the public's dollars. So when you see what's going around compared to what we're doing here in Deerfield Beach, we're fighting really hard, for you. These numbers don't come out of, thin air. We did have budget workshops back in June for like 4 hours, for 2 consecutive nights or 2 consecutive sessions at least, where we vetted a lot of these particular thoughts, our concerns that went into this document. So this isn't just something that snuck up on us tonight that we're bringing to you. There was a lot of preparation that went into this, and so I just want you to know that there's a lot of work that we do to bring this to you when it comes to the public that we work on, behind the scenes. But keep an eye on what our neighbors are doing, and you'll be mildly surprised, what we're doing here in Deerfield Beach.
Thank you, Commissioner Drosky. Before I go to you, Vice Mayor, I just wanted to add this one thing. If your values did not go up, you're being taxed at the same percentage rate, so you're not getting a tax increase. If your property values have stayed exactly the same, you're going to be paying for the city of Deerfield Beach exactly what you paid last year. The percentage is exactly the same. Am I incorrect in stating that? If your property values have gone up, you're going to pay higher prices because the value of your property has gone up. We're not changing the percentage in which you're being taxed. So I think I want to make that clear when I hear people say that it's a 9% increase in property taxes. Actually, it might be higher for some people and it might be lower. It might actually be a savings for some should they have lost value on their property. So the percentage in which you're being taxed at is exactly the same, just for clarification. Vice Mayor Miller, you were first, and then Commissioner Battle.
Yes, I just wanted to ask the city manager something for the public. Going by memory, hasn't our credit rating increased like 2 or 3 times in the last couple of years? By Fitz?
Yes, we've had a credit rating increase by Standard & Poor's twice and once by Fitch.
Okay, up in the positive direction.
Yes.
And right now, we've had, as mentioned earlier, the highest reserve maybe the city's ever had. And we've also got one of the biggest hurricanes we've ever had right off our coast, heading our direction. I'm thankful that this commission and former commissions had enough foresight to put money in the reserve with this kind of disaster coming down our way. So good job, fellow commissioners and past commissioners.
Commissioner Battle.
First of all, I just want to thank Mr. Dunkley for the fine presentation, and Commissioner Drosky for asking that it be put on the website. And certainly those people in District 2, if you have questions or whatever, you're always welcome to call me. Just for the, especially for Mr. Sullivan's, you see me with this is my own personal phone. Concerning IT, I have the same laptop, sir, or ladies and gentlemen, that was given to me when I took office almost 4 years ago. Well, that particular laptop is taking me now like 2 days just to power it up. I'm not asking for that. You know, we sit here and we try to be very prudent with your monies one way or the other. But I'd like to put it in request, Mr. City Manager, if I can get one. It's no. But I think IT does a fine job, and certainly if they don't have a plan in place, I'm always one to ask for a plan. And if you don't have a plan in place, IT, I would suggest that you do get one, because we all need to be brought into the century that we're living in right now. And I won't have to look on my phone here to pull up my agenda items. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Battle. And I have to agree. I will say, when it comes from an IT standpoint, if you're not investing in your IT department as a city, you're behind the times and you're falling behind. And I remember sitting here 4 or 5 years ago when we first got these, and we were all working with the giant binders, and the amount of money it cost to put those together and print those out, there were people that were upset because we actually got these to use those, and that was 4 or 5 years ago. So an investment in an IT department is a good thing.
I'd like to make a motion to approve. Oh, you got a comment? Sorry.
Yeah, just a quick one, just to clarify. The Microsoft Surface is certainly not $9,000 each, more somewhere around $1,000+ What we're actually purchasing from the City Commission offices are the large touch-screen TVs that you've seen in planning and zoning downstairs in their lobby. And the reason why we are asking for those for the City Commission is that way, if you meet with any developers or citizens, you're able to very easily bring aerials up of properties or of neighborhoods and talk about that area much easier. It's basically a large PC, and it's much easier for us to do that than to continue to give you new aerials every couple of months. And it's just, I think from a presentation standpoint, much better, and the price of it, it's not like we're going to replace those every year or even every few years. So, thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion.
Now my motion. Yeah.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Commissioner Battle. Call roll, please.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes?
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
Next is an ordinance of the City Commission approving the budget for the Community Redevelopment Agency. This is basically a formality of just approving the budget as approved by the CRA.
Any commission comments before I open it to the public? I'd like to open it up to the public then to speak on the Community Redevelopment Agency's budget.
Dan Commissioners, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I understand there are certain CRA board members who have a problem with the CRA contributing $75,000 to the annual 4th of July celebration. I quote from the August 8th CRA meeting minutes. Ms. Battle said the city is contributing $75,000 of taxpayer money for this event, and the businesses in that area are reaping the benefits and not contributing. She asked if other facilities could host the event, or can more sponsorships be sought. Now, it is certainly true that those businesses and real estate owners in the CRA benefit greatly for that one day of the year. But what about the other 364 days of the year? Who benefits more the rest of the year? Let's see what happens to the property tax base in the CRA and figure out how the city benefits. I want to give you two examples, and both examples are taken from readily available public data information. The first example is a property at 2025 Southeast 1st Street, a 6-unit motel called the Elizabeth House Inn. The property sold in 2016, and as a result, the property tax increased from $11,800 per year to $18,700, a 59% increase. Second example is the Comfort Inn at Hillsborough and A1A. Due to a huge increase in this property's market value in 2016, its market value was $2 million higher than its assessed Save Our Home value. This ensures maximum 10% per year property tax increases on this property for the foreseeable future. In fact, an analysis of many of the commercial properties in the CRA revealed a 10% maximum property tax increase for 2017. The money spent by the CRA is not the only reason for the large run-up in property values, but it certainly is a large contributing factor. Let's contrast the increase to the property tax base in the CRA area to the Dixie Highway Corridor in District 2. According to Ann Gegas of the Sun Sentinel, only 3 new properties have been built in that area over the last 16 years. That does not add a lot to the property tax base. So next time you have short-sighted comments by commissioners about what benefits the businesses are reaping on July 4th in the CRA, let's remember what happens the other 364 days of the year.
Anyone else from the public care to comment? Name, address, city and state for the record, please.
Yes, Richard Rosenzweig, Stentry Village. I'd also like to remind the audience.
Your address, please. I'm sorry.
I said 97, pardon me, Deerfield Beach. I thought I said. If not, I apologize. That there are many events that take place down on that area through the year besides the 4th of July. It's always been my pleasure to walk along that and talk to people who come in to spend time here in Deerfield Beach from Michigan, Wisconsin, and other states around the country, and make an annual event. And so these are the things that bring people into those to bring revenue into that area as well. The CRA budget, I think, is a well-advised and a tremendous asset to our city, because it does bring a lot of people in and vendors in who get in line to want to be in this area because of what we bring in to this area. It's incredible the number of events that come in and how well they're attended. And so it's more than just one-day event for the CRA. It's for a number of different events that we do. And with that, we give up an awful lot, too, besides the event itself. We give up parking and other things to make room for some of this. And we cover all of that from the vendors who come in. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public care to comment? I'd like to close the public portion to be heard. Commissioner Battle? Oh, I'm sorry, there's someone standing up. My apologies. I'm going to rescind that.
My name is Angela Storr, and I live at 1041 Southwest 8th Avenue.
I'm sorry, Ms. Storr, could you speak into the microphone?
Yes.
It's a little...
My name is Angela Storr. I live at 1041 Southwest 8th Avenue. And my concern about the CRA is when years ago, when you rezoned District 2 and it included the beach area and the cove area. And the money was spent there to revitalize that area. You pave roads in the area, you fix the beach up. So why, and talking about Dixie Highway, maybe if some of the money from the CRA that you have now go along and fixing up Dixie Highway and entice it a little bit for new businesses to come in, maybe we can make more money and get taxes if you do that, if you put the money in District 2 where it's needed. That's all I have to say.
We got somebody here.
I was going to get her a booster seat to speak.
Hi, I just want to come behind Angela's store, Sandra Jackson, 386 Southwest 35th Avenue. I'm not sure if you realize the CRA, from my understanding, they used District 2 to get the money, but you guys had, I guess, formed some type of organization or something that you had the people come in and vote to see where the money was going to go at. And I understand they vote to have the money go into District 1, but they used District 2 to get the money to have the CRA come into our city. I'm not sure how true that is. That's what I heard.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public care to speak? Just want to make sure. Anyone? No pump fakes? Okay. We'll close the public portion and be heard. The CRA was created in 1999, and I believe it was done right at the December 31st, the stroke of the end of the day, in order to accomplish that. It's one of the last CRAs that was allowed to be created in Broward County. So, yes, had the CRA been created in District 2 along Dixie Highway, I think you'd have a much different Dixie Highway than what you have now. So I don't think it's fair to really compare one district over another. During the hardest economic times that we had, we were building the pier, rebuilding the pier, building the new pier restaurant building, redoing the parking lots over there, redoing the Cove parking lot, and we were able to do that because of CRA money. That decision was done 18 years ago now, and I'm sure if that CRA was in a much different area in the city, whether it be District 2, District 3, or District 4, you would see a much different area that's there. And as far as your 10% increase in businesses, I obviously, there was some debate. There's, we have differences of opinion on the money being spent on the 4th of July and the contributions from the businesses there towards sponsoring that. But this 10% that the gentleman was just talking about and how that they've had that increase, that goes for any non-homesteaded business or building here in the city of Deerfield Beach. You're going to get that because you don't have that protection of the homestead exemption. The other thing about that is that just tells you if those kind of increases that you're seeing in values shows that our community redevelopment agency is doing what they were intended to do, which is increase the property values over there. So they're doing a good job. So that's a good thing. Commissioner Battle?
Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for your comments because you really have allowed me tonight to keep on my Bennett College for Women hat and not get really outdone about the comments that were made referencing Dixie Highway. We all know what happened on Dixie Highway. We don't even have to go there. I hate to see people rear their ugly heads or spew out ugly comments about Dixie Highway when we know that that particular highway was in a blighted area. We could have, as a city, we could have taken those funds, CRA funds, and used it in our blighted area, but we chose to use it elsewhere. And now that Dixie Highway has been sitting there for so many years, we're trying to do something about it. We have a plan in place where we are going to do something about it, but for me to sit here and have somebody or have the audience think that Dixie Highway is never going to have anything constructed on it, or that we have been negligent as a district, because that's the way the comments were pointed. We have been negligent as a district, and therefore nothing has been done on Dixie Highway. I take offense to that, but I do, again, Mr. Mayor, want to thank you for your comments because you said basically what I would have said in terms of to the gentleman, and you allowed me to be continue to be a lady on this dais tonight. Thank you.
I don't think the comments were meant to be personal, hopefully, by either one of you. Mine certainly wasn't, but just pointing out some facts and the way I look at it. Do we have a motion on this?
I'd like to make a motion, but make a statement. Mayor, you're correct. When the economy was crashed, we were still able to improve our city because of the CRA. And I'd like to commend Chris Morey that has done a great job since she's been in charge of the CRA. So we reviewed her budget already. I'd like to make a motion that we approve her budget.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Now for the public portion to be heard. Andy, if you read our rules.
Yeah, no comment shall be made related to the personal life or personal qualities of any person, and no language which would offend persons of ordinary sensibility shall be permitted. The only items that can be brought up and the public to be heard are items that are not on the agenda.
Anyone from the public care to speak? Yes. And your name, address, and city and state for the record.
Certainly. Glenn Sullivan, 2377 Deer Creek Trail, Deerfield Beach, Florida. Now, you can cut me off if you want right away, but in some of the presentations I've seen in all of my research, there were performance metrics that each of the departments collects.
Is that in regards to the budget that we've already discussed?
Well, it's performance metrics, so it doesn't necessarily go direct, well, I'll tell you, it doesn't go directly with dollars and cents.
We'll give you some leeway, Mr. Sullivan.
Thank you. So my recommendation would be that most, if not all, departments need to relook at what they're measuring. Most are not true metrics that track efficiency or improvement. Manager being added to improve performance, but no way to track improvement. I would suggest that you consider a metrics page on the city website for each department that can be updated quarterly for citizens to see performance changes, and it gives you a better way to make decisions based on hard data. And that's all I got to say for that.
Thank you.
Katie Freitag, 418 Southeast 2nd Street, Deerfield Beach, Florida. With the lovely Hurricane Irma coming our way, I'd like to ask the city for a couple of things. I've seen on a lot of the neighborhood pages and local web blogs, people asking regarding schedules for trash removal, for any kind of bulk pickup. If people are out trimming their palm trees right now for coconuts and getting all the coconuts down, is bulk pickup going to keep coming around until hopefully up through Friday to pick up as much of the debris out on the roads as possible? If we could please get that noted on the website, that way we can refer people to the website. Also, emergency contact numbers. Have it right on the very front page of the website so that people can get to, fire rescue. Hopefully not rescue. Hopefully not any fires. But anything along those lines, emergency service calls, even put the water bill, the water company number on there, even FPL, any kind of emergency phone number so that we can have everybody go to a one-stop shop, go straight to the city webpage. They can see where when the last pickups are going to be for any kind of debris and trash removal. They can see where the last, and as soon as the storm goes through, as in past during Wilma and stuff, they start to automatically post where can we get water, where can we get ice, where will the pickups be for things like that. If we could also get that updated as quick as possible after the storm has passed. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And everybody be safe.
Thank you.
My name is Joe Hines. I'm at 559 Northwest 47th Terrace. I have a handout, please. The documents that I just handed out, there's two of them. They come from the CAFRA, the Certified Annual Report we just received on around June the 20th. In that report is a mention of a letter under a separate heading, and the document on top is taken from that letter, the second heading. And you'll see underlined there that the city has not issued its comprehensive annual financial report by the March 31st reporting deadline established by the Government Finance Officers Association. You know, the CAFR comes out in June, budget's in June. You know, there's a whole lot of things going on. This thing needs to be out well ahead of everything else because it could be, and it's being delayed, and it's being delayed intentionally. And it's hard to understand it, and you have a short time to do it, and it's pertinent to what's going on right now. Now, when you go to the second page of that document, it's the second page of, it's page 8, and this is taken from the CAFR, and there you have some numbers. And they have the summary of the net position of the city of Deerfield. And if you look at total assets, the city of Deerfield has a total assets of $274 million. Now, when you go down to, all the way down to the bottom, the total net position of the city of Deerfield is $129,774. Now, how do they get to 129? Well, one of the ways they get to that 129 is they take and subtract from the net total assets up above the non-current liabilities, which are $149,800,000, $150 million bucks. They subtract off 274 and they come up with a 129. Well, if you take that number out, the 129 changes and becomes about 279. For total assets. It's the same thing as if I told you I had $100,000 in the bank and I own a house. And then that house is, I have $100,000 equity in that house and I owe $200,000 note on that house. But you subtract the $200,000 I owe from the other $100,000, I'm broke. And that's how the city gets this number. Now, what is that? Why am I mentioning this? Because this goes back to honesty, openness, and everything else. This is just this is a CAFR. We're talking about a certified annual report, and it's right there in front of our eyes if you can understand it. Okay? Now, you can't understand it when you're boggled down with everything else that's going on at this period of time of the year. This thing needs to come out on March the 31st. Now, there's some food for thought right there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to speak?
Dan Hurst, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue. With so little information disseminated to the public about the bond, there's added importance will be placed on the individual who will oversee these huge projects for the city. It's not about the bond.
Mr. Hertz?
It's not about the bond.
You promise?
Yes, you'll see in a second.
That way.
Okay. The person who leads our city economically is Burgess Hanson. Let's look at Burgess's record over the last few years on some major economic issues. Burgess purposely did not pay the $3,000 property tax on one beachfront parcel, which eventually was one of the 6 parcels the city paid $1.7 million.
Mr. Hertz?
Yes, it's not about the bond.
No, it's not about the bond, but it's also a personal assumption that you're making. So
but it's fact?
No?
Okay, then I'll skip that one completely. Okay. I'll go to the next point, and you can stop me if you feel that it's not fact. Okay. 9 variances were allowed for a 10-story Cove Hotel to Michael O'Leary of Blue Water 8 LLC without imposing an expiration of the variances, which allows the developer to have an infinite amount of time to build a hotel or sell the property. In the meantime, the delay is costing the city $430,000 per year in potential property tax revenue. Next, there has been numerous examples of contracts that have been failed to be put out for bid, even when there is proof of poor performance, as was the case earlier this year with Complete Property Services of South Florida, Inc. The increases in the general reserve are at the highest level in the history of Deerfield Beach. The city manager and the finance department assumes that it is better to hold on to the taxpayers' money instead of returning it to the citizens of Deerfield Beach in the form of lower millage rates. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public care to speak?
Good evening. Jerry Lee, 4311 Crystal Lake Drive, Deerfield Beach. In my research of public records, My first concern is the property at 3801 and 3821 Crystal Lake Drive, the brand-new condominium complex known as Crystal Riviera, right across the street of the golf course. In order for the city to take action on this matter, the commission relied on an opinion from the city attorney. Was the commission ever given a copy of the court decision upon which the city attorney based his opinion? I would argue that the city attorney's comments titled an opinion are just that, and it has no legal standing other than an opinion. The commission members should be allowed to review the court case or cases upon which the opinion was based. The city attorney's opinion can't take away property rights. Now concerning the property across the street at 3800 Crystal Lake Drive, where the current construction is occurring on the driving range portion of the golf club. The minutes associated to the Planning and Zoning Board meeting conducted on May 7th, 2015, I have found these results. And if there's anyone who is slightly familiar with this community knows that traffic and parking is a major problem, and perhaps the current zoning codes are not adequate to ensure sufficient quality of life for this community. I believe the parking ratio needs to increase the number of parking spaces per unit. And knowing that this problem exists, how can the city allow this project at 3800 Crystal Lake Drive to proceed with a special permit to construct fewer parking spaces than what is required by the current code? Also, the portion describing how the traffic will be reduced with the construction of this project because it will replace the old 50,000 square foot clubhouse. The old clubhouse generated like 600 trips of traffic. This new project generates 297. That's their philosophy. We all know that a new clubhouse was built in a suspicious manner in order to facilitate this project. So the traffic associated with the clubhouse remains. This project will only be a detrimental increase in the traffic for this community. And the traffic conclusions derived by the government and the developers are not correct. I believe these reasons alone should warrant a call for an emergency moratorium on the construction that is occurring on this site. And now for the actual property of the golf course. The city is scheduled to make their final decision on this land use change at the next meeting of September 19th. I request for the city to reconsider this proposal. The application from the developer is not accurate and is not up to date.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Did you want an additional minute?
I would very much to ask every one of you to give me an appointment.
Would you like an additional minute? Yes, go right ahead.
I have a lot more material to go through, just a few more, but I would like
less than a minute now.
Go through the application. Please make an appointment with me. I would like to speak with each and every one of you about their application. Attachment 17 of the application, the Florida Department expresses their concerns. Attachments 18 and 19, the county refutes the FDOT's concerns as not being relevant for this project. In addition, other areas of intersections, such as 18th Avenue and Green Road, are not considered. And the developers claim that this golf course is underutilized. I have so much evidence, so much references, articles to tell you this golf course is not underutilized. Please reconsider, and please set up an appointment with me. I would very much want to go through all of this information. And please review the agenda item that is available on the Broward County Commission.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Anyone else from the public before I close it? I'm going to close the public portion to be heard.
Bill, Ms. Mayor, is it possible?
I'm sorry. If you're going to come up and speak at the microphone.
Thank you.
Give your name, address, if you'd like to speak.
Richard Rosenzweig, 97 Farnham in Deerfield Beach.
Thank you.
Is it possible to speak on item 4 that was pulled?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Like to close the public portion to be heard? Yes. We're going to move up something on the agenda. This will be very brief, but it's very, very important. It does pertain to the hurricane that is out there. We have a presentation for 3A resolution, an executive order by the mayor of the city. Well, Andy, I'll let you read it.
This is an executive order by the mayor of the city of Deerfield Beach declaring a state of local emergency in the city of Deerfield Beach, Broward County, Florida. Pursuant to our emergency procedures ordinance, this executive order is permitted by virtue of the fact that the governor has declared a state of emergency. And the purpose in doing this is to implement provisions of our emergency management code. We have a very specific emergency management plan that will be implemented. It also gives the city manager certain authority with regard to purchasing under very controlled situations, but it gives him certain authority in that regard. It gives the ability to declare curfews if needed, and things of that sort, and to place other restrictions on the sale of alcohol if needed, in the case of an emergency based upon the potential hurricane. The state of emergency is scheduled for to begin at 11 o'clock this evening, and if that's the time you wish, and it lasts for 1 week. It would have to be reimposed by the commission for a period up to 30 days if you wish to do that. You may wish to make it on, I don't know whether you want to make it tonight or Thursday. It depends upon you. You can have a determination on that. But it does permit also the city to collect debris from roadways under certain conditions in various residential neighborhoods, provided there is a consent form by association. So it does implicate a whole group of powers that are needed during hurricane emergencies, and that is the purpose for the mayor in doing the executive order. It's not subject to a vote. It is just placed on here to for the mayor to inform that he's going to do it. But again, as to the timing, you may, I don't know what timing you wish to have.
I think the discussions that we've had would be Thursday that we start that would give us enough time into the following week. Though I think the timing of this hurricane has changed, but do we have any updates? Is Thursday still the appropriate time?
Thursday would be suffice.
And,
Okay.
it's for a 7-day period.
Okay.
And to go further would have to be extended by the commission. All right, so that's, again, point of information, but we thought it would be appropriate to do it at a public meeting.
Since the commission doesn't reconvene, does it make sense for us to extend it beyond Thursday, beyond the 7 days tonight?
You would have to, we would have to do a resolution. I could read into the record. Do we have a resolution?
Good evening. Anthony Soroka, Assistant City Attorney. I don't know if you can hear me up there.
Yeah.
We do have a draft resolution prepared, but the language that we have in the ordinance provides for thereafter the City Commissions may extend.
Yeah.
So I think, our office had a little discomfort. We looked at the issue a little further today. Our office had a little discomfort extending it because of that thereafter term when it hasn't been implemented yet.
Fine.
But we do have a draft reso prepared, and if needed, we have emergency meeting procedures that we can initiate to effectuate the extension if needed.
That's fine. We can call a special meeting if we need to. Okay. Is there anything formalized that I need more need to do?
No. You can watch the next item.
Okay.
If you'd like, I'll read the title for, and this is item 6. An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $39 million of capital improvement revenue bonds to fund capital improvements to refund other city debt, providing for the payment of such bonds from non-ad valorem revenues of the city, providing certain other matters in connection with such bond, and providing an effective date. This is first reading. It's not normally a public hearing, but this is second reading. I'm sorry.
This is
second reading. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It has been advertised. The advertisement was for the $39 million number. This is the public hearing on the matter.
Okay.
Mayor Gans, if I could
Sure, City
ask
Manager.
for the privilege to have the Assistant City Manager do a brief presentation again for the public, which will discuss what we've done up to get to this point and what will happen if this is approved tonight moving forward. Mr. Santucci.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Commission. David Santucci, Assistant City Manager. I'm going to take a little bit of time here to go over the projects themselves, the construction methods in which we will go about procuring the projects, along with current cost estimations. So first, I want to just let you know how we got here. And I think it's important to note that back in the 2016 fiscal year budget, the city manager did talk about a revenue bond. And that was because we were, at that point, really laying the foundation for what was before you tonight. And, albeit that the projects themselves were described a little bit differently, but priorities have shifted based on commission input and just the community input as well over the past few years to get us to where we are today, and the projects that I'll show you in just a minute. We've also created the Division of Construction and Facilities Management, as well as merging them with the Procurement and Contract Administration Division under me, so that there is a unified front, if you will, in terms of tackling this large project. We've also, with the help of the City Attorney's Office, we have worked extensively on updating all of our contract and procurement documents as they relate to construction. And then, as you know, and we've talked about this at great length tonight, we've improved our financial position to get us into a position where we can move forward with the revenue bond. So what are the different methods that are available to us when we talk about procuring construction from a government standpoint? You can go with the traditional design, bid, then build, in which we would go ahead and solicit for an architect or engineer to come up with a full set of design specifications. Those design specifications then would be put into a bid package, which we would then go after a low bid situation with a construction contractor, and then they would go ahead and move forward with the construction. Those work in some cases, and it's a tool in our toolbox. They work great for horizontal construction because typically there's not a lot of unforeseeable conditions in those. They're great for resurfacing projects and the like. When you're talking about horizontal construction, you're dealing with a little bit different of an animal. You want to make sure that your design team and your construction contractor are working harmoniously through the process so that you don't end up in a situation where you've got a set of bid specifications that the construction contractor is looking at bidding on and looking for things that he can provide change orders to. They're looking for things, not necessarily mistakes, but holes in the specifications. So in this design build scenario, they're working harmoniously. Then you have the construction manager at risk. Those are great when there are a lot of unforeseen conditions. I'll give you a very good example. We did that for the Northeast 3rd Ave. There was what perceivably looked like a simple roadway project. However, we're dealing with 3 different funding sources, the county, the state, and us. We were dealing with right-of-way and homeowners' properties. We had FP&L, who was proved to be not the best partner in the project, so to speak, along with the other utility companies. So in that case, we were able to give a lot of the risk in the project to the construction company to complete it. And then you have what's called construction job order contracting, which is really great for renovation projects and small projects, but wouldn't just fit the bill here. So what are the benefits of the design build process? I've already mentioned how you have that unified and collaborative environment between the design build team and the construction contractor. At the end of the day, what's going to happen in this process is you're going to contract with them, and they're going to provide you a guaranteed maximum price and a guaranteed completion date. So they bear a lot of the risk in the project. They have to do, obviously, their due diligence to make sure that they can build it within that time frame and at that price. More importantly, you're dealing with one contract and one point of contact because you're dealing with the design build team rather than an adversarial relationship between the engineer and the contractor. Not that they're always that way, but at least in this sense, they're working together. And then because you've got the design and the construction team working together at once, a lot of times you have much faster delivery in terms of actually being able to cut the ribbon because you can proceed with the design and the tail end of the design and the beginning of the construction all at once. So it takes out a lot of the steps in the process. So what's the process look like? What you're gonna do is develop a design criteria package, and that's actually a best practice in a state statute and our ordinance. You're going to do a performance-based competitive solicitation process, and then you're going to go through your design and construction phase, which I mentioned. And what we're going to talk about now is kind of the elements of the design criteria package. And so what you're going to get from the design criteria package, you're going to have a professional put this package together for you, is all the things that you see here, and I won't go through them for the sake of time. But a design criteria professional, architect or engineer, will build this document for you, okay? And then you're going to take this, and then you're going to put out that design build solicitation. So let's talk more specifically about the projects here that you have that are in front of you. You got the City Hall renovations at $3.5 million, approximate estimated cost. And some of the things that are included in this project are a complete commission chamber and lobby entrance remodel. This is nothing like you see here tonight. We are going to be doing some extensive renovations in terms of the dais, the seating, expanding the seating area for our residents, as we have, in some cases, outgrown the seating capacity in several meetings that we've had. The technology is going to be improved. The cameras, it is at times difficult for the public to see what's on the board. We're going to take care of that. We're going to do building hardening. That's very important to us from the standpoint of we need to protect our City Hall. We don't have hurricane impact windows. We don't have a lot of hurricane impact doors. The roof replacement is a must. We've talked about that in our workshops, constant leaks and the like. The fire alarm system and elevator replacement is required to bring that up to, if we're going to be doing all these renovations, we're probably hitting the cusp of requiring to update that fire alarm system. And the elevator system is quite old. We did have a major repair that we had to do recently, and it did fix the problem, but that is a very old elevator, and just based on the maintenance of it. So, relocation of staff space, construction and renovation. We have spent numerous hours with the engineer and going around to each one of these departments and asking what they're going to look like in 3 to 5 years, what they need in terms of office space, and we have come up with a redesign that we think will provide a appropriate working environment for all of the different offices that are housed here at City Hall. I mentioned the technology and innovation upgrades, just alone in City Hall, but that will be throughout the building. And then lastly, but not least, is of course interior and exterior renovations that will conform to the new Pioneer Grove design standards. The next project is the Tigner Center. The estimated cost at this point is $7.2 million, and that's the cost that we're moving forward with in terms of going after the revenue bond and what we're reporting, or what we will report to the underwriters. It's approximately, at this point, 13,900 square feet. It's going to sit on approximately 90,000 square feet of site area. And the reason why I provide those two figures, because it's important to realize that although you're just, I say just, but you're building a 13,900 square foot building, the actual area that you're going to affect in terms of landscaping, utilities, parking lot, and all those other things that you don't consider off the top of your head, that's over 90,000 square feet. So it will be an office space for up to 10 staff. The major components of it include the studio room, after school and summer camp program space, computer labs, large banquet room, a warming kitchen, space for the PAL program, and a DJ room. The Center for Active Aging is an estimated cost of $9.5 million. That's approximately 20 square feet. It sits on a much larger envelope of 194,000 square feet. The office space will be for approximately 36 staff. The major components is a health and wellness clinic, board and meeting rooms, multi-purpose room, creative activity rooms, aerobic and fitness rooms, and classrooms. I left a lot of the stuff out of there, obviously office spaces, the restrooms, the storage. I can provide more detail. I just wanted to highlight the more important things that would affect the public. Then there's street resurfacing proposed to be used for the bond at 6.25. It includes approximately 306,250 square yards of milling and repaving, appurtenance adjustments. I practiced that word for a little while and then almost forgot it.
You want to educate us?
Yeah. Thermo striping, traffic control signs, MOT, mobilization, demobilization, and project management. So that's quite a bit of resurfacing that we plan on doing with those funds there. What's important to note when I showed you those construction cost estimates, and what's been reported out there is that some of these projects are going to cost somewhere between $600 to $700 per square foot, and that simply is not the case. The actual square footage estimates for some of these buildings, the buildings will say, is between 250 and 300 square feet, which is in line with industry standards. What's happening is you're looking at the total...
$250 to $350 per square foot?
$250 to $300. What's happening is that you're looking at the total cost, well, not you, but what you cannot do is you cannot look at the total cost of the project and simply divide that by the square footage of the building. As I mentioned, there's so much going on within the site and within the construction contract itself that is not included in that square foot price. And no construction contractor would estimate the square footage cost using all of these things. So let me give you some examples. The things that are not included in the square footage cost would be things like demolition, site utilities and parking improvements, furnishings, fixtures, equipment, any phasing that needs to be done. And what I mean by phasing, it's going to happen on both projects, both at the Tigner Center and at the Center for Active Aging, is we have to demolish one building, start building, demolish another building, start building, because we still have to operate. And especially when you're talking about the Center for Active Aging, we have requirements to take care of the elderly population there based on our grant funding. So the phasing is going to be rather expensive for both projects, but it's a requirement. You also have permit fees, general conditions, the contractor's overhead and profit, bonding and insurance, contingency, and then of course the design fees to actually come up with the plans and specifications. So out of all these things that go into the component of the total price, the square footage price should really only be the building construction itself. That's all I have. I'll address any questions that you may have.
Any comments for Mr. Santucci?
Mr. Santucci, in terms of us redoing and bringing our buildings into conformity, you didn't mention anything about accessibility.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes. I mean, of course, the new buildings will conform to ADA requirements, but yes, for this building, the renovations will certainly include ADA compliance, as well as the fire alarm. In fact, one of the things that we'll be doing when we redo this entire dais is there will be a wheelchair lift. There'll be better accessibility into the commission chambers, through the entrances, upstairs, the whole nine. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions for Mr. Santucci? No. Thank you, Mr. Santucci. Public portion to be heard. We'd like to have comments before the commission before we have the public. Public portion to be heard is open. Yes, anyone would like to come up? Please come up. Give your name, address, city and state for the record.
My name is Joan Gould, 842 Southeast 19th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I'm here just to speak to Mayor and to the commissioners, and I want to thank you all very much. As the president of the Northeast Focal Point CASA Board of Directors at the Northeast Focal Point, soon to be called the Center for Active Aging at the Northeast Focal Point, I'd like to thank you all for your support ongoing as long as I have been on the board, which is 12 years. As long as I have been on the board, we have talked about improving the community center to provide for better services, more attractive environment, a safer environment, a cleaner, brighter environment for all of our seniors, but not only for our seniors, but for those in the community that are soon to be seniors, that we would love to invite them, welcome them to come to our community center and be part of it. This center is not just for seniors with Alzheimer's, and it's been brought to my attention through social media that there are a group of people in our community that are not very happy about the expenditures that have been approved for the capital improvements at the Northeast Focal Point. I would just like to challenge anybody who has never been to the Northeast Focal Point, for those in the community that believe that this community center does not deserve the money appropriated to upgrade and create a more favorable environment for our older neighbors. With a little bit of luck and good health, someday many of these people that are the naysayers about improvements at the community center, they will be seniors, and they will need the services that are being so strongly supported, not only by the Northeast Focal Point CASA Board, by the Women's Auxiliary of the CASA Board, and by all of the men and women that work so hard to provide services to our seniors in this community. Every community in Broward County has a very, very strong presence with a senior center. We deserve to have the senior center, and I will challenge anybody that has not been there, come and spend a week and spend some volunteer time and see what we do there and see the hundreds of people each week that we provide services to. We have 1,000 members, and every week we have 100 to 200 people that come through the doors that are having services provided to them, whether they're social services, socialization. We have 12 buses on the road that pick up people and take them to doctors' offices and to shopping, and take them out of isolation that they could be forced into if they didn't have the community center that we have. I thank you for having the opportunity to speak my piece today.
Good evening. My name is Hussein Danish Pajou, and I'm here with my business partner, Ms. Mina Wise.
I'm sorry, address, city and state.
We are owner of Liberty Tax at 702 South Federal Highway, Deerfield Beach. We are here to request an exception to the ordinance banning waiver marketing for our business from month of January through April 2018.
I'm so sorry. We're talking on a different subject matter.
My apologies. My first time. I'm pretty sure that you're actually.
And I apologize because that time to speak on that type of an issue has already passed.
Okay.
So, but please get with staff so we can talk about that and bring it to the attention of the commission so we can talk about it at the next commission if you'd like.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ju-Young Park. I live 109 Coconut Key Lane, Delray Beach. I like Deerfield Beach, although I don't live here. And the reason I came here because I want to support Northeast Focal Point. I work at FAU, School of Social Work, as a faculty and also researcher. I do a lot of community-based research. In 2011, FAU School of Social Work, FAU College of Medicine, and College of Nursing had developed partnership with Northeast Focal Point. Since last 6 years, we are able to bring a lot of grant money, especially foundation and NIH, which is federal money. So in order to bring more research money, we need strong community support like Northeast Focal Point, because what they did, we need to show a lot of data. We have a lot of senior population in South Florida needs more research money to improve their quality of life. I think this is very important, especially as a researcher. My job is bring a lot of federal money, but in order to do that, we have to show the evidence, what's going on in South Florida for senior population. So Northeast Focal Point gave FAU a lot of support to do research from the beginning of like recruiting people, because we need a lot of seniors living in kind of community area, or seniors come to the senior center So we developed our intervention study and provided intervention for, many years. And then they really liked the intervention. So now the program is evidence-based program. So I think this is very important. So because of that, we are able to receive the funding from NIH, and also we are able to publish findings, and then we have dissemination these findings not only U.S. but also world. So this is very important find. Because of their support, we are able to finish our research. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jessica Schuler, 191 South Ocean Drive, Deerfield Beach. I am on the board of directors for the Northeast Focal Point for the last 4.5 years. And tonight I heard a lot of different things about roads and about clubhouses and about things. And I think the thing that I've loved about Deerfield Beach the most is about the community. Is about how we are here for others, how we walk down the street and people smile and people talk to each other. So I think we're looking good, but who are we really being? And being there for others, being there for the senior population is one of the most important things that we can do, because we're all heading there. None of us are exempt. I hope we live long lives and we have an opportunity to be in a community such as the Northeast Focal Point and make a difference, help others. Thank you.
Good evening, Board. My name is Gloria Ochigrosso, 520 Southwest Nature Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I just want to say a few words. I've written a few words about the Northeast Focal Point. My husband and I have raised 5 children while residing on Long Island, New York. After they all married and were all settled in their lives, Joe and I filled our lifelong wish to move to Florida. We moved to Deerfield Beach, bought a home, and we both took on part-time jobs working in Deerfield. Life was perfect for all of us. Then 15 months ago, my Joe passed away. After months of grieving, my friends told me about getting out and looking into joining the Northeast Focal Point. I was amazed at the activities that are available to seniors. I joined the Enhanced Fitness Program and met our great instructor, Julie. We meet 3 times a week, and Julie and our group have become like a second family. They have knitting classes, bingo, tai chi, and many other activities. There is also an exercise gym equipped with stationary bikes, a treadmill, and other equipment that we can use. The Northeast Focal Point has become my lifesaver. They have the best trained and friendliest employees to assist and teach you. There are many activities and outdoor trips every week. Meals are available daily, and bus transportation. Do come and visit this great facility we have available in Deerfield. You will be surprised, and hopefully will want to get involved in our many activities and make many new and good friends. Thank you, gentlemen.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Horn, 401 Northeast 19th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I have a handout for you. It's about Northeast Focal. Do you know all the things that they do and all the different activities that they have for the aging group? We're all going to be seniors, as everyone has said. Gloria put it just perfectly, that we're all going to get there. They have all these activities available for us, and it's fun. And they have charity events that are great to go to also. The facility definitely needs to be improved. It is a great need for technology, as has been brought up. And they all need new computers. The Wi-Fi there is terrible, believe me. So anyway, I like Northeast Focal. They have great events, great activities, and come see us there.
I think you know the routine by now.
My name is Joe Hines. I'm at 559 Northwest 47th Terrace. I don't have any problem with the Focal Center, of course, and I am a senior citizen and proud of it. Nobody's talking about money. I mean, we're talking about I thought we were talking about a $37 million bond, but I'm not even sure that it's in order to go to a $39 million when you had a first reading where you passed the 37, so I'm not sure that's, that we should be even, this should be a first reading, not a second. But anyway, couple things. If you add all those numbers up that Mr. Santucci showed us up there on the screen, it comes out to 26 million, and you're asking for 39, so there's $13 million left over that's just going to be laying around somewhere for somebody to grab for anything they want to do. If you take the Tigner Center and you use the 7.2 million and the 13,900 square feet and use the $300 square foot figure that he said it was 250 to 300, I use 300. That comes out to 3.4 million for the building with 3.8 million left over for site work. That's a lot of money too. I'll be glad to take that contract. If you go down there to the Center for Aging, that was 9.5 million total. And if you use the same calculation, you can do that building for 6 million, which means there's 3.5 left over for site work on that rascal. Now, as far as the bond goes, the printout that we got available to all the citizens a couple weeks ago was this right here. And on the last page of it, it's kind of tricky, but if you read it, it says for discussion purposes only. The numbers fluctuate. Now the numbers fluctuate again. These calculations don't even seem to represent this bond. And I just wondered, I tried to amortize this thing out, and I think if you guys borrow $39 million, does anybody in this room know how much you're going to have to pay back? Can somebody please tell me that number? I bet none of you can. I bet there's not one of you in here, because I bet you nobody knows. And I think the number is going to be north of $70 million bucks. I think that's a number we ought to know too before this thing comes to, this thing ought to be postponed till this thing all comes out, and let's have a nice discussion about it. And it shouldn't be buried at the last, near the agenda on the first reading either. I'm really proud that it came early tonight, thanks to Mr. Miller and y'all folks delaying a couple other items on the agenda. But, this is $39 million. This is a lot of money. It's a lot of money to pay back. And I'm not saying it's a bad deal, bad to be borrowing money and spending money. But we ought to know what we're spending it on. If I was Warren Buffett and you were my son and you came to me and you said, I need $39 million, Dad, and I said, well, tell me what you're going to spend it on, and you show me a sheet that adds up to $26 million, I'd say you need to come back. You're not getting that money. Thank you very much.
Sandra Jackson, 386 Southwest 35th Avenue. First of all, I need to know the age where you can join the Northeast Focal Point, because I'm almost that age. I need to go get some exercise too. And I didn't know if they take Silver Sneaker also, because that may be considered that, where the city may get some money from Silver Sneaker for that.
We'll get you in the daycare.
I have a question. My question is, I guess you guys saying resurfacing, I guess, the roadways. I'm trying to find out why we as a city paying for something like that. Shouldn't DOT be taking care of that? Why we have that included in this amount that we're borrowing? And that's my question. And another thing, you guys want to do a banquet hall, and I'm a little concerned because when the Butters Construction came in to do that development over there, that was their plan, to do a banquet hall. My question is, who changed that plan? Because we would have had a banquet hall that he was donating to the city of Deerfield Beach, and all of a sudden that plan would change. So I just want to know what happened, because now you guys want to redo something, and I feel like the building, some of these buildings that you're trying to do can be refurbished instead of knocking them, demolishing them down. To me, it just costing a lot of money. Also, the contractors who you're using, are you going out to bid to everybody who qualify can take those bids, or you guys are just having certain people bid on it? That's my question.
Terry Scott, 624 Northwest 2nd Way. First of all, let me say thank you for this bond going forth or being on the agenda, long time overdue, especially for Westside Park or Ovita McKeithen, Johnny Tigner Recreation Center. My only concern is that the gym also needs some work done to it. It is long overdue also for some renovations. And the banquet hall, I just pray that it is conducive to this entire city, that we will not be building anything that can seat 200 and 300 folks, because that's not even enough now for District 2. And we need to make sure that when we're doing our billing or our numbers, that we're putting those numbers where it is to this entire city. These events now that we know are well over 300 in attendance. So I would ask if we would please look at those numbers. And also, Johnny L. Tigner Center is a community center. Many meetings go on in that facility. I didn't see nothing about a conference room or meeting rooms. And I do believe that we need those spaces over there also. That there need to be some kind of private going on when we got our kids over there for after school program. And our after school program sometime runs until 8 p.m. With the different activities that they go on with over there. So I would ask that there would be some kind of meeting rooms or conference room for the sake of this community. And we know that the Johnny L. Tigner Center sits on a lot of land back there. We shouldn't have nothing small. I know sometimes we look at we put one thing before the people, and when it come out, it's something else. I would ask that we will use all that we have to use to make those buildings suitable for this entire community. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elise Miller-Plotkin, 1998 Northeast 7th Street. I know what I'm going to say is going to upset people here that are very for the Northeast Focal Point. I know it's going to upset them, but I have to express myself. I volunteer at the Northeast Focal Point, and I go there once a week, and I was doing it more than once a week, and I just want to tell you my observations. To me, enhancing the seniors in this community is not just about a building. Building a new building will not make improvements in the senior community or have more things available to them. It's not about a building.
Ms. Plotkin, please address the commission.
It's not about a building, and it's not it's not about changing the title of the facility. I mean, that's very nice because you want to broaden the people that come. But I don't think it's enough, because what I see there is that you have some old people that come, and what I notice is a lot of the older people have been passing away, and we don't have a way to get new people to come. You know, when I go there, there's maybe 20 to 30 people in the main room where they come and they hang out. They hang out in tables, and it's like a nursing home. My mother was in a nursing home, and they're sitting around tables doing nothing. They have music, but it's like music from a nursing home. That's what I find. And then there's some people that come to the coffee shop where I volunteer, and the very intelligent ones tell me that they don't want to come because they can't have an intelligent conversation with the people that are there right now, because it's not stimulating for them. So there's no reason to bring newer people who are active and something to give to this community by the people that are attending now. So unless there's more advertisement and there's more structure of activities that are changed there, it's just going to be a building that's dying, because that's what I see. There's someone from Canada who volunteers there in the summertime, and he said to me, in Canada, they have so many activities and things for the older people, and I don't see that here. You know, it's good on paper, but the people that go to the exercise or the classes are very few and limited. And until there's advertisement and maybe more people that are trained in things related to elderly, having a building and a new name, to me, is not going to be enough. And it's a lot of money that we're spending. And if you don't have a really in detail plan of something that you're going to make internal changes, to me, making a new building and a title is not enough. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Glenn Sullivan, 2377 Deer Creek Trail, Deerfield Beach, Florida. First off, I'd like to thank Mr. Santucci for the details, but I hope we get much more detail in the near future layouts, and so that the citizens can see some people want more, some people may want less. So, and it is also disturbing that we've got a $26 million bill, and I don't think we're going to be paying $13 million in finder fees. So that would be very interesting to find out why the big disparity between the dollar figures that are asked and what has been supported tonight. $39 million is a 25 commitment to at least $2 million a year in our debt payments, and you can throw another one in for next year's budget because it's going to be an additional $1 million in debt payments because we only covered $700,000 in this year's budget. So there's another $1 million that you're going to have to take into account for next year. The capital improvement plan identifies even more money from the general fund, another $3.2 million, and 2020 bond revenue for Pioneer Park upgrades, Oveta McKithen Recreation, thank you, Recreation Center improvement for $3 million more, Tam O'Shanta Park development for $3 million more. So we got another $7 million. So I wonder if that's maybe included in that missing $13 million. I don't know, but we need to find out what's going on there. And I really think that the citizens need to see more and more detail as this plan goes forward. I think we can give you many of the citizens can give you some valuable feedback on the plans that are. The detailed plans that are set forth. And just the only last thing, that each and every business or zoning request presented to this city must be supported with detailed information, and this really should be no different.
Ladies first, if you don't mind.
Not at all, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Nancy Motto, 228 Northeast 9th Avenue. I came to not live in Deerfield only 14 years ago, but my husband transferred here from Detroit to stainless steel manufacturing in Deerfield. So I have 6 children who all went through Deerfield Elementary, Deerfield Middle, Deerfield High School, 2 grandchildren who went through some of those schools. Those grandchildren are now 18 and 24. They also were participants in the preschool at Northeast Focal Point. So I love Northeast Focal Point. I came there to be a participant probably about 5 years ago, and I'm also a volunteer there. I find it very stimulating. I have a lot of new friends there. We have become a family. The slogan there is home away from home, and we really do feel like we're family. Some people like to play cards when there's free time, some play dominoes, and some do talk. I am a talker. And I do listen, but I have gotten to know a lot of the staff. I love it when they bring in the Alzheimer's people to our parties and they dance with us. They love the music. We love the music. We have a lot of fun there. We have speakers who come in. We have people from insurance companies. The staff there, I love them all. They're very personable. The buses that bring us there and take us home, the bus drivers are all cordial and friendly to us, know our names, and it is a viable place. I think having a better facility may bring in more people, and it should bring, more people should be there now. I don't know why they're not. A lot of people think you have to be old and decrepit to be there, but you're not, and you actually can become more alive by being there. There's classes through our psychologist or our social worker. We have different classes on wisdom, and you wind up laughing and enjoying yourself, and it's a wonderful place. And anybody who's around 60 should come on over and try it out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Richard Rosenzweig, 97 Farnaby, Deerfield Beach. Again, getting back to Focal Point. We have supported that organization for quite a while, and there are quite a number of people go there, especially from Century Village. The bus picks them up and takes them back, and this is probably one of the few times they can get out and get around other people and participate and be more alive than what they have been. And more importantly, there's a young people's pre-ed group in there, of young children, as Commissioner Battle has read to them, and I've read to them, and perks them up and gives them something from an outside source to really enjoy the day. They are really active, and they bring a lot of joy to me just to sit there and to be with them. It makes me feel younger myself, even though they're a bit rambunctious at times. And the activities, and as I say, and everything else goes on in there, there's a number of people when I go in there, and it is also one of the few places now that is a focal point for Meals on Wheels, and they get service through that sector for home delivery of meals in Century Village, among other places, I'm sure. And so they play a major role, more than what you just see and what they think the dollar value is. This goes beyond that. It's a humanity program that really serves an awful lot of people. And if you check with Donna DeFranzo, the director, you'll find out that they do a tremendous amount of activity even outside of Deerfield Beach that brings people in, and the sharing we do with others of knowledge with these things are a great asset to Deerfield. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jay Deerfield, 533 Northwest 3rd Way. Well, Northeast Focal Point is a nice place. They're my neighbors. And I like to see what they're doing over there. You know, it's good that you look out for the elderly. Everything now is built up around youth. But we were there. Now we going. We got to have something to do. Does the city own that totally by themselves, or are we in partnership with somebody else in the Focal Point?
We can answer that at the end for you, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
Well, anyway, you know, the money seems good, but if we're partner with somebody else, you know, let them come up to the bat too. You know, we spend a lot of money here lately. And just like I say, if we borrow that money, you got to pay it back. I'll be going to my grave paying taxes.
Dan Hurst, 330 Southeast 19th Avenue, Deerfield Beach. I just want to mention two words, transparency and optics. It really would have been nice to have Mr. Santucci's presentation in the late night hours of August 15th when this was first presented to the public. As you know, at that time there was almost no information at all given to the public in the backups other than that night, a little oral presentation by Burgess, and that was it. Obviously, he gave a lot of information tonight, but you all are voting on the second vote tonight, and there's really no time to question any of the things that Mr. Santucci said. But to me, it's an amazing question, which I know I will not get an answer, as to why that information was not given to us the night of August 15th. I can't understand it. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. And that's why, in terms of optics and transparency, this city has a big problem. Because of a perfect example is what just happened tonight. Now, because this bond is being paid back from money out of the general fund, I just want to bring up one other point. And of course, if the hurricane comes and hits us and we have tremendous amount of expenditures, and what I'm about to say is not applicable, but assuming we are not hit with the big one, there is in the unassigned general fund $25 million. You are required to keep, these are rough numbers, $10 million for a minimum $10 million for emergencies, another $5 million for hurricanes. That's $15 million. You have $25 million. That's an extra $10 million. Nobody's saying spend every penny of that $10 million. But if you realize, if you cut this bond by $5 million, it would save $2.5 million to the citizens of Deerfield Beach over the term of this bond. And that's why it's important, and it all ties in together. Thank you. Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, one last thing. There is nobody that I know of that is against spending money to improve the Northeast focal point. I've been there, and I totally agree it needs a lot of work. So it's just a matter of trying to do a cost analysis, and now, only tonight, we were given some of the information that was lacking. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll have to get a different microphone for you. We might need a little taller one for you, Mr. Hertz. It seems like you have to step into it. Anyone else from the public like to speak? I close the public portion to be heard. Commission comments, staff comments. We do have a question that needs to be answered as far as partnership with the Northeast Focal Point.
Well, number one, we have exclusive ownership of this facility and property. However, as we all know, the funding mechanisms do come from different, from federal and state levels of government, plus what they actually fundraise through their different events and philanthropy by generous donors. But I would like, before we continue, or before the commissioners get into their commentary, two things. Number one, I would like Ms. DeFranzo to come up here and talk just a little bit about what they do in particular at the Northeast Focal Point, because I think that needs to be addressed. It is a stimulating environment and atmosphere. And then number two, I have Ms. Sylvia Dunlap, who is the owner of Dunlap and Associates, who is our financial advisors for this, and she'll come up afterwards to go over what the process is. And $39 million is a not to exceed amount, and you'll also find out later tonight that this is not the final step. Even if you say, let's move forward, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to go out and issue the bonds. And if you do approve it tonight and we move forward with it, then yes, as Mr. Santucci said, more details do come out. And I'm sure when Ms. Dunlap speaks, she will talk about what other cities do in these types of situations, and we're following the same procedures. So, Mr. Franzo, please. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, City Commissioners, City Managers, members of the audience. My name is Donna DeFranzo. I'm Director of Senior Services for the City of Deerfield Beach Northeast Focal Point. Thank you for listening to our constituents this evening as it relates to the Northeast Focal Point. The center has been in existence for over 35 years. We impact people's lives. It's not actually what activities and programs that we do there each and every day. It extends throughout the community as it relates, number one, with the number one need for seniors in Broward County is transportation. We have 12 vehicles. Those vehicles are purchased through grant funding, which is complemented by 10% raised locally by the Northeast Focal Point CASA Board, and that provides transportation to and from the center, to medical appointments, to the grocery store. Some of those people that we bring to the grocery store, as well as to medical appointments, may never come to the Northeast Focal Point, but they have the connection as it relates to transportation services for seniors so they can have accessibility throughout the community. There are many people that come to the center for various types of both physically and mentally stimulating type activities and engagement, whether they be sitting in a small group activity, a large group activity, or whether they be learning a skill through the clay sculpturing, ceramics classes, wood carving, wood engraving classes, computer classes, physical fitness exercise room, as well as various exercise programs from Tai Chi to chair yoga to yoga on the mat to the enhanced fitness programs, which is the evidence-based program that was mentioned this evening, along with music and entertainment. We do have individuals from age 60 and over. I think somebody had asked what age, 60 and over. Our average age in the senior center is 78, 79 years old, because most of the individuals 60, 65 are continuing to work in the community. We, in our Alzheimer's daycare center, the average age is 81 years old. So we do have multitude of different activities and programming, and to address Ms. Elise's comments as it relates to on Fridays, that's what the seniors want. By the end of the week, they want music, they want entertainment, they want programs of that nature. On Fridays, we also do field trips as well as every Wednesday. In addition, we right now are undergoing a transformation within our department as it relates to staffing, and we have a brand-new recreation coordinator for the senior center just started today. So we'll see new and improved activities and innovative program, along with our partnering with the Parks Recreation Department for activities not only at the Center for Active Aging or Senior Center at the Focal Point, but also at the new Hillsborough Technology Center, Highlands Gardens, so we can branch out into the community to meet various needs of individuals from 60 to over 100 years old. And there's individuals that may just want to sit there and engage with people, and I don't think you can put, for people who have Alzheimer's disease and their caregivers, and many of them were here earlier, but after 8 o'clock they kind of had to get home with their loved ones, would assisting the client that's there at the center, as well as that caregiver who's either at home trying to get some things done because they were up all night, or maybe they're out actually working, being productive members within our society. And I can't speak enough about the intergenerational programs with the children, as well as the youth that we mentor through whether FAU, Health Administration Program, their nursing program, their social work program, as well as Broward College, Kaiser University Occupational Therapy Assistants, as well as Nova University's physical therapy students. And I think that's the research that we need to see as we all continue to age each and every day, is, what is the best way to combat some of the chronic illnesses and diseases so that we can manage them better. But I think the main focus is to improve the quality of life so that people aren't home alone by themselves and socially isolated. And that's with sometimes we are there for them. And thanks to the city of Deerfield Beach. And we do receive grant funding from various sources, as well as from donations.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Pronto? No.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, if I can, with Mr. Dunlop and Mr. Dunkley closing.
Thank you.
Would you like me to come up?
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, before I introduce formally Ms. Dunlap, I would like to preface one thing in terms of the overall scheme of things. Mr. Santucci has laid before you the projects to be undertaken, but just to kind of preface the fact that the notion of issuance of bonds by government is not a foreign concept. Most municipalities, as well as state and federal entities, they issue bond for these types of long-term projects. From an analogous standpoint, if you take your personal finances, just to ask a quick, and if I may indulge of your time, if I'll take it, and you don't have to raise your hand, who among us purchases their home cash? Typically, a very small percentage. What bonds enable us to do is to finance the projects over the period for which they benefit the citizens. Very few municipalities, if any at all, will ever save up the funds and purchase or construct the projects as some have indicated here. The typical course of action is to issue bonds or to borrow the funds to finance the construction. Ms. Dunlap will be going over the nuances of bond financing, including the timetable and essentially what course of action we'll be taking next after and hopefully when we receive your approval.
Good evening, Mayor Gans and Vice Mayor Miller and Commissioners. Again, my name is Sylvia Dunlap. I'm pleased to be here, and as your financial advisor, I have over 31 years of experience. Some of our clients include the City of Jacksonville, the Town of Davie, Lauderhill, Florida Atlantic, Florida State, Pasco County, City of Cocoa, and various other cities and municipalities throughout the state. And like you've already mentioned, this is a very involved process. It's a team effort. It will be a team effort between bond counsel, the financial advisor, the underwriting, the rating agencies, the bond insurer, if it's deemed to be feasibly and attractive for the city, the CFO, the purchasing department. It's an entire team effort, and it requires a lot of time and effort in developing not only the financing plan, but also in selecting the correct underwriter and the timing for the sale of the bonds. I would like to point out a couple of important dates that we have outlined. These obviously are flexible. We have just assisted the city in drafting an RFP to select an underwriting firm. They've obviously included all the purchasing requirements. We've sent it directly to over 13, I believe, or 14 different companies, and the city has advertised it. These responses are due on September the 22nd. The city will create an evaluation committee that will evaluate the underwriters, and they will select and rank the underwriting firms. That decision will come forth for the city to evaluate on October the 17th. Subsequently to that, Disclosure Council will prepare a preliminary official statement, which will be the document that will be used to market the bonds. It will include all the information pertaining to the city, the demographics, the structure of the bond resolution, everything that a bondholder would like to know in purchasing your bonds, including the bond rating. Once that preliminary official statement is completed, it will be sent to the rating agencies for them to evaluate the credit. They will then give you a credit rating, which usually is good for a month or 2 months. And that credit rating will determine the interest rate, basically, that you will obtain on your bonds. The higher the rating, the lower the interest rate. And right now, you're rating from a covenant to budget and appropriate. It's a AA-, which is pretty strong. One of the strongest in this area. So you should be very proud of that. Once we obtain the ratings, we will also submit the insurers who insure bonds to look at insuring the issue and see if there's any benefit in them providing insurance. Some insurance companies will not have a rating as strong as the cities, I must say. Before, they used to be all AAA, now they're not. So we will do an evaluation based on the policy premium that they quote us versus the interest rate savings. And we will do a present value evaluation and see if the savings from using bond insurance justify their premium. If not, we will go with your own rating, which I said is pretty strong. Once the rating is obtained, we then decide when the bonds will be priced. And this is also a flexible date, and it will depend on market conditions, Federal Reserve announcements, supply, demand, many factors. On the day of pricing, the underwriter will actually go and sell the bonds early in the morning. By noon, they'll come back and give us an interest rate scale based on what they were able to sell the bonds at. We have run preliminary schedules based on current interest rates, and for a 25-year bond issue, current interest rates, all-in true interest cost, which is what we refer to in the industry. And that true interest cost covers cost of issuance and all the various interest rates for each year. It's about a 3.69, 3.65, and obviously that varies daily or minute by minute based on what the market is doing. I'm sure after the hurricane, there's going to be a movement in the interest rates. So we will continue to update all these numbers as we get closer to, and also refining the amount that you want to issue. Obviously, since you've authorized an amount, that doesn't mean you have to issue all of that. It's simply if you decide, because maybe construction prices increase or there's a reserve requirement that you may need or unforeseen circumstances, they don't have to come back to you and do a first reading and a second reading. Once you have, like I said, the ratings are only good for a certain period of time, and this process takes quite a bit of time. So to make it more efficient, usually cities authorize a higher amount, but it doesn't mean that they're going to issue that entire amount. On the contrary, they're going to try and reduce the size as much as they can. Let me see, where else are we? On the day of pricing, they'll determine the interest rates. The city will either accept or won't accept it. Typically, the city does accept based on our recommendation if the interest rates are favorable. If not, we will renegotiate those interest rates before the end of the day. And subsequent to that, within 2 weeks, the underwriter will come with a check and give you the money for the bond sold.
Any questions? No? Thank you very
All
much.
right, thank you.
We've got a plethora of lights. I believe it was Commissioner Grosky, then Commissioner Battle, and then Commissioner Parnas.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I first want to thank the residents and the dialogue that I've had. There's several residents who are here tonight that I've had extensive conversations with this subject over the last week, 2 weeks. And I'd also like to thank staff for their presentation to help clarify some of the questions that have come up during this process. One of the questions I got the most was this 39 versus 37 million. And what happened is everything was published on the website for the 37 million, and then at the commission meeting, we were given an amended version for 39. And this, as of yesterday, when I checked, never made the website. So if we're going to amend something, I think we've, at least need to put it on the website so the residents are aware, so we can, minimize some of this confusion.
Wasn't that dated in July? In July, the amendment?
I don't see a date.
Okay. 'Cause I saw that. I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Well, we had checked, because that was the question that our office looked into. We had questioned that the backup, the backup on the website was for the 39 in the agenda package. It was for the 39. And the advertisement in the newspaper was 39 names.
I checked the internet. It was only the 30. I only saw the 37. It was not 39. So continuing, the difference for the additional 2 million, which I think the public needs to know, is there's a recommendation by our financial advisor to include that extra 2 million, which would be 1 year's principal and 1 year interest, as kind of security for the bondholders. My understanding, though, is that there's additional ways, perhaps, to tackle this particular problem. I was going to save this towards the end of my comments, but I guess I'm going to work it in now. That typically, or you can have bond insurance, and bond insurance, I've researched into, would roughly be $40,000. The additional 2 million that we're paying would be 80,000 in interest. So it would behoove us from a cost perspective to do the bond insurance instead of doing the reserve. This extra $2 million, we're paying interest. We're paying interest on this amount for this buffer that we may or may not need when there's bond insurance that's available, or we have other funding mechanisms through the city to pay this $2 million to save the residents money. This is $80,000 that we're talking about. So I need to have this dialogue with my fellow commissioners tonight, whether we're doing 37 or the 39, because as it was correctly pointed out to me by a resident, I did mention 39 million during the last commission meeting, and the residents were saying, no, it's 37 million. Well, the reason it was 39 is because you didn't see this amendment that we had, that we got before that meeting. Now, the projects that are under consideration, if you attended the budget workshops that we had, the city has a lot of projects. It's not just these four that are critical to our city. I could think of a lot of projects. We have, the cemetery that's just sitting there that we're not doing anything with. That'd be a good project. We have the firehouses, fire stations. Those are good projects too. But during the budget sessions, we identified 4 projects which are mission critical to the city right now. City Hall, and I've joked about it, but it's not a joke about, the flooding whenever we get in my office. Bring a raft and an oar and come on up. City Hall, the Tigner Center, the Northeast Focal Point, and the road paving, road resurfacing. Those are the 4 projects that we identified as being mission critical. The road paving was done in the western neighborhoods first. It's not fair to the neighborhoods out east that they don't have their surfaces repaved. Just drive around some of the neighborhoods, you know where I'm talking about, that the roads need to be paved. I have been to the Northeast Focal Point. I'm still under the old vernacular, by the way. When I was first elected, I took a tour of all of the city commission facilities. Go there, take a look at it. You'll see for yourself that this center it's outlived its purpose. It does need to be improved. The Tigner Center, actually the first estimate came in because I made the comment at the budget meetings that we need to sharpen our pencil on these. The initial estimate for the Tigner Center was actually much higher, probably in the $15 million range. I think the commission directed the city manager to sharpen the pencil on that particular project, and it was cut in half. And keep in mind, the Tigner Center, that's the geographic center of our, approximately the geographic center of our city. If we want to, everyone claims, we want lower taxes, we want, better quality families, we want, better housing in the city of Deerfield Beach. Well, the way you're going to recruit new families into Deerfield Beach is to improve your parks, to improve your community centers, where these kids can go to play on the weekends. This is what families are looking for here in Deerfield Beach. So we need to promote this as best as we can. Now, the Tigner Center alone won't solve this problem, but it's a step in the right direction. We can either decide to kick the can down the road, or we can tackle these problems now. These are items that have been pointed out that we're not flush with cash to pay these, out of reserves. We can't do it. So we either do a bond and tackle these projects, or we do nothing. And we decided at the Budget Commission meetings that we wanted to do something. In fact, we want to be even more proactive and tackle the other projects that I discussed. But, first things first. So these are the projects that need to be tackled first here in the city. And this is just the beginning of the process. And it took me, again, not having that manual to understand first, because it looks like we're putting the cart before the horse on this particular project. But we're not going to get an interest rate from the bonding companies. They're not going to talk to us. We have to do it this way. We are approving for the city to go out into the bond market, and then they're going to come back to the commission with the final bond terms, whatever those may be. And we as the commission have the ability to reject those terms. We don't have to accept them. This is just the beginning of the process. We don't have to go along with anything. Just because we approve 39 million, 37 million, whatever number we come up with tonight, doesn't mean that we have to accept the final terms at the end of the day. There will be more opportunity for public input. There will be more opportunity for public, vetting and disclosure, and to critique this particular process. And I'm going to be there every step of the way as well. So, but I am concerned about this extra $2 million and how to tackle that. I know it's being, a conservative approach to this, but when bond insurance is out there for a much lesser cost, I would wonder why that's not on the table first.
Yes, ma'am, you want to have?
Yes, that is, you are totally correct, and that will be one of the scenarios we will be looking at before we price. We will have to initially go to the rating agencies, see what the city's rating is, and based on the city's rating, we'll ask the insurance company to bid on not only insuring the bonds, but also providing a debt service reserve, a surety, in lieu of a fully funded debt service reserve. You're correct, that's going to save you a lot of money because you will not have to pay the interest on that money. However, the rating agencies don't look favorably upon using surety, and that has been because in the past, these surety companies or insurance companies have been downgraded, and then cities are forced to come up with that amount to fund the debt service reserve. That reserve is basically in the event there is a delay in you collecting revenues for some unforeseen reason, you can take that money from your debt service reserve to pay principal and interest. So it's a reserve in the event something happens financially in the city. So it makes the bonds a lot stronger, and therefore it improves the credit quality and the credit rating.
If we approve the 39 tonight, and we decide we're not going to go that route, and we're going to go with the insurance route, we have the opportunity to
Sure.
change that
Oh,
between now and
definitely,
then?
sure,
Okay.
Yeah, this is just preliminary.
Okay.
But the
Mhm.
39 is the max.
Yes, the max. But it doesn't mean you have to issue it all, not at all. It's just the conservative amount. That way you know what you cannot exceed.
We just had another credit rating improvement from S&P
Right.
just this last week.
Mhm.
That we had an improvement. When did that go from?
It went to a AA- and AA on the general obligation bonds.
I don't see T-shirts out here tonight for that. We saw it when we were downgraded, but I don't see a lot of that. We certainly heard it then, but we don't hear it now. They're dead silent. It's amazing. But I think it's a good thing, but I will ask you this. If we take the approach in which we take money out of our reserves to pay for some of this, one of the things that's been stated in our rating improvements is because of our healthy reserves. If we were to start doing that, that's certainly going to affect our ratings.
That's correct. Your general fund is critical. If you start depleting your general fund, then that was one of the reasons they didn't feel comfortable with the outlook. They didn't give you a good outlook until you started accumulating plenty of general fund, unassigned general fund revenues.
So that percentage could certainly have an effect on
Correct.
in that rating decrease,
Yes.
depending on what our rates would be.
That's correct.
Okay. So it's a double-edged sword.
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Goss, did you have a question?
I did want to follow up with Mrs. Dunlap, if that's okay.
Ms. Dunlap? Sorry.
So can you just kind of walk me
Sure.
quickly through the process? So when this goes out, are you going to market this, that we want to try the bond insurance, first, or is it built in for the reserve? How, what makes you decide which option to go with and when?
Once we have the preliminary official statement, which is based on our timetable, ready to go, and we go to the rating agencies, we're due to receive a rating on January the 5th. At that time, we will send bids for the insurance companies to provide bids on how much they would charge for a surety in lieu of a fully funded debt service reserve and to insure the issue, or one or the other. In some cases, they will not provide a surety unless they insure the entire bond issue, because it's more profitable for them. If they're going to take the risk, they want to also do the insurance. There are some cases where they will provide only the surety. So we will evaluate based on a rating on your own versus an insurance scale, what makes more economic sense for the city on current interest rates. And also based on the surety, we will look at the surety price versus the surety cost interest. And then you can evaluate if you would like to go with the surety or if you would like to fund the reserve, based on what you already know that it could have an effect on your rating.
It's not a question, it's a statement. I think we need to see what the market conditions will
Right.
will bear out, and then we'll have to make a determination from there.
Right.
I'm only comfortable going forward to 39 million rather, to test the waters, not that that is an indicator of how my final decision would be.
Well, I
Okay.
think even the 37 million, correct, is not something we necessarily have
No,
to go with.
you don't
This
have to.
is just our
No,
maximum.
correct. That's the most conservative amount, the worst-case scenario.
Any questions?
No, thank you.
Or I shouldn't say the worst, it's just the maximum you can issue.
Commissioner Battle?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Obviously, I'm pleased that we're finally going to do something like this, and certainly I am one for having those reserves in place, because having worked for government all my life, I understand what it means to have those reserves in place. Just for the benefit of the citizens, though, I heard someone talk about, well, the question was asked, why don't we let FDOT pave our streets for us? FDOT does not pave, they only pave rather those streets that are city streets. And so, not city, state streets, those that they own. We have to pave our own streets. We've done it over in the east, just like Commissioner Drosky said, and west. And those, yes, we have, sorry, Jim. And there's streets in the core of the city that are in dire need of repair and resurfacing. And we need to be about making those streets as safe as possible. In addition to that, Oviedo McKeithen is one of our oldest parks in this city. It sees a lot of traffic. We've not done anything over at Oviedo McKeithen on a large scale since the center itself is what we're looking at spending money on. It needs to be brought into compliance, ADA-wise, if nothing else. And so as I said, and I look at us expending this amount of money and on these types of projects, I think they're sorely needed. And I'm just hoping that the citizens will get behind us and help us to make sure that the bonds are taken care of so that we can do this, or these projects, because they are sorely needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Parnas?
For those that don't know, the bond issue is a loan, basically, to oversimplify it. Big construction is never built on an owner's money. They borrow money, or they bring in partners with money to build a construction project. This is the way business is done. We are in the business of having to build several projects, including our roads. Private streets, when I say private, that aren't state-run, are our responsibility. They haven't been paved in a great long time. How many of you have been riding on Hillsborough Boulevard lately? It's nice with the new paving, isn't it? We want to do that to many in the city.
I'm sorry. We can't have any outbursts from the crowd.
So-
I bait you into that, though, I will say.
I didn't mean to bait you into anything. So understand that we need work done if we're going to keep improving the city. I don't like having a Martin Luther King dinner with many dignitaries and many citizens from Deerfield Beach in a gymnasium. I think it needs a better place. Or whether it's George Washington's birthday or whoever we want to celebrate, I think it needs a place we can be proud of, that we feel comfortable inviting people to. I think more people will come to events if it's in a better place. So these projects are important. They're important for the growth of our city. We're not a little sleepy town anymore. We have almost 80,000 people living here, and it's going to continue to grow. And as it grows, we have to grow. So this bond issue is a loan for capital projects, projects that need doing. So understand, this is where we have to take the money from. We have a hurricane coming. We have $25 million in the bank. If we commit it to something else and the hurricane hits How do we clear the roads? Think about that. We need money in the bank. We're keeping it in the bank for what we really need. Capital projects, we borrow money. That's the way the system works.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Thank you. I am 100% for the bond issue. Starting with this leaky, mildew-smelling facility that was built when our city was 25% the population that it is now. It was built for 25,000, not 75 to 80,000. It's got to be renewed. It's even not healthy for our employees or us commissioners that sit up in the mold areas. Uno. Plus, it's going to modernize and kickstart the Pioneer Grove whole area. We're like the northern end of Pioneer Grove. It's going to have a stimulus effect to invite other builders to say, we are serious about building Pioneer Grove. We've made an investment. We're starting it out right now. And we're showing, come join our city, come invest here. We're going places. Talk about a CRA on the east side. You know what? This Pioneer Grove is going to stimulate District 2 as it bumps against District 1. It's going to have a positive effect right then and there. Next, go to Tigna Center. That was built when we were third the size of our thing now. We are totally outgrown that. And we want to have our kids a place to go. We want to have our banquets in a nice facility. Come on, we're not 1995. We got to get into this century. And you know what? This is cheap money. And you know, we wouldn't even be eligible if we didn't have the money saved up in our reserve. And increase our fiscal responsibility in getting rating after rating improvement after we bombed out because we didn't have any other source of income besides ad valorem taxes. So your previous commissions have steadfast, did what they could under the economic situations we were dealt. And here we are, 8 years later, talking about being able to get a bond. Couldn't even talk about that years ago. Road repaving. It started out west. It's time to finish the job. How do you do 2/3 of the city and not do the last third? And some of our most important commercial centers, Newport Center, needs to be done. District 2 needs to be done. East side of District 1 needs to be done. Absolutely. It's like painting some of the rooms in your house. You don't finish the house. It's not the way to do things. And by the way, in my almost 68 years, 3-point-something% is a pretty darn good percentage, right, on a loan. And I think we ought to take advantage of the cheap money while it's still cheap. All right, and then we had road repaving, Tigna Center, Northeast Focal Point, the hidden treasure of our city. I had the privilege of having my father live with me for the last 20 months of his life. We didn't even know all the things they had going on there. But it ends up my wife started doing exercise with my father for the last year's months of his life. It was a treasure. I was able to get almost everything I needed, from walkers to electric wheelchairs, from that facility, which we now just closed the store. but now I donate to Goodwill. It's a treasure, and I believe if we bring that up to this century standards and we promote it, with those 12 buses or whatever it is running around, this will be something we could all be proud of. And I'm part of the baby boomer generation. To invest now to support my generation is wisdom, because every time we come up, every school, middle schools, high schools, colleges, boom, 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 had to be expanded as this post-World War II generation came up. It's time to invest in our older citizens, and it's time to do it now while we can, and the money's cheap, and we're even credit-worthy of getting this bond. So, listen, that Northeast Focal Point is a treasure. It's something for our city to be proud of, and once we get this new facility, with all the complications of keeping the whole thing running while we're doing construction, I'd be proud that this can start while I'm still on this commission. And I advise you all that let's pass this bond movement and look at it again when the numbers come to fruition. But I'd like, unless the mayor wants to say something too, or do you need to say anything more?
I would say, like to say.
All right, Mayor, go for it. Well, I think you know where I'm going to vote, guys.
I'll keep it relatively quick on this. Obviously, I think most people, and most of the people that spoke out here tonight aren't questioning the need for it, though some have. City Hall, the last time it was renovated was 1991. If you want to see a time capsule and what things were like in the early 90s, walk around to any of these facilities that we're talking about. Sit in a District 2 meeting where the air conditioning knocks out within the first half hour, with a room full of 60 to 80 people and Mr. Drosky and Commissioner Drosky in a suit. And watch how fast people are trying to exit the room. It's long overdue. You can criticize whether we should do it or not, but do you want to move the city forward or do you not? And I think this is what we need to do. Look at these improvements are going to affect the neighborhoods and lift that up. If you don't believe me, take a look what Sullivan Park has done to the landings and the property values of those areas surrounding it. It's been a tremendous improvement in what we've had. Go take a look at what it's done just to uplifting the neighborhood with what was built over in the technological park, the new community center that's there. And that's with the small community center that's modernized, and actually, when you look at the amount of people that use it, the amount of people that want to go there, there's a reason, because it doesn't look like it was built in 1990. All right, it's time to modernize these facilities and move that forward. I understand why people had questions about this. I get that, because there wasn't a lot of information. I don't agree with the fact that saying, well, it was buried in a late night decision. We can't help that some of the debates that night carried it into the late evenings of the night. That wasn't the intention of it, but the bottom line is that it was a late evening. We could have had more information on this and put that out there, and probably would have cleared up some of the miscommunication and some of the, as someone likes to say, optics of it. But I also will say this: no matter how much presentations we make and how much information we put out there, some people like to argue that water isn't wet just because the person that brought it up. That's what they'll sit there and debate and go round and round. I could give you all the answers and all the explanations in the world, and you're going to sit there and go back and forth simply because I'm the one that presented it to you. That kind of stuff, you're going to have to ask yourself, are you really moving the city forward by taking that approach? The accuse first and ask later approach isn't going to work for you, and it's only going to bring the city down. If that's what your intent is, keep going at it. We'll continue to move forward, but that's not the way to go about it. I do have questions from the 37 to the 39, but the bottom line is, let's go out there and find out. There are more decisions to be made on this. This is the first step in moving it forward. But I will tell you this. The one thing that's nice, that when you want to start questioning numbers and think you know better than others, and everyone's a sudden expert, and I get that. It's right to question things. You should. I'm not trying to discourage that. Again, I don't like the accuse first and then ask later approach. But just take a look at the track record, and I will give the praise to the city manager and the staff that he has put together. Our Pier Restaurant project, our Sullivan Park project, our Cove Shopping Center project, the street repaving that already took place. No one questioned how much money that cost or where that covered. Not a word. No one said anything about it. Amazing how suddenly they come out of the woodworks. Again, it's because who is the messenger and not the message. If you look at the Arboretum, the community center that was built over there, all of these other projects, we have not had the type of problems they had back in the days of the Mock Center, back in the mid-2000s when people were going round and round with cost overruns and decisions that didn't make any sense. We've either come under budget or we've been right on time, and it's been beautiful projects every time. And that's a testament to our city manager and the staff he's put together. We're just policymakers. We say yes. And we take a look at it and we question it and we look into it and make sure that they're doing the right job, and they've done the right job. For people who like to complain that you've never gotten a review, Mr. City Manager, one, I would like to tell them, show me one that's ever been done for any city manager we've had in the last 20 years. But number two, that right there is your review. The fact that you've been able to come under budget, come on time with these projects, and left this city in a better place than what it was before you got here, there's your review. So we'll bottle it all up into this. With that, Vice Mayor Miller.
I'd like to make a motion to approve this bond amendment.
We have a motion and a second from Commissioner Parnas. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle? Yes. Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Next, we have our consent agenda. Do we have any polls from this? Anyone from the public care to speak out on any items on the consent agenda? I'll give everybody just a couple minutes to clear out a little bit. Okay, not seeing anyone from the public want to speak on the consent agenda, I'm going to close the public portion to be heard.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion, and now I'm sorry, I believe we had a second from Commissioner Battle. Sorry, Commissioner Parnas. Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry, this needs to be a roll call. I apologize.
Commissioner Battle? Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. We just have quiet in the audience, please, as we get through the rest of the agenda. Next general item.
Resolution approving a transfer of appropriations from the general fund.
Anyone from the public that can speak in this item? Item number 10, the general items. Not seeing anyone. I'd like to close that. Get a motion, please, or discussion.
I make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a motion and a second. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle? Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
Next is a resolution approving ITB 2016-1754, rehabilitation of 4 lift stations to Hinterland Group.
Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Not seeing anyone. I'm going to close the public portion to be heard.
Make a motion to approve.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Parnas. Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle? Yes. Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
Next is a resolution urging the Florida legislature to enact legislation by establishing texting while driving as a primary offense.
Commissioner Drosky, you brought this forward. Any comments that you want to add to it?
Thanks for putting me on the spot.
You don't have to. It's just an option. It speaks for itself. Anyone from the public care to speak on this item? Before I embarrass Commissioner Drosky anymore? Not seeing anyone. I'm closed. Public portion be heard. My apologies, Commissioner Drosky.
No worries. I mean, it's basically now you have to, texting is a secondary offense. This is just to encourage the legislature to make it a primary offense. Many of the accidents on the roadways these days are caused by people who are distracted by texting. And the law enforcement does not have the ability to pull you over if they see that offense. It has to be connected with something else. So this is to encourage the legislature to change that so law enforcement can make it a primary offense and pull you over for if they catch you texting. So that would be, I'd make a motion to approve item number 12.
We have a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second from Vice Mayor Miller. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle? Yes. Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
A resolution of the City Commission denouncing hate, extremism, and bigotry, supporting steps to combat hate, extremism, and bigotry, providing for distribution, and providing an effective.
Commissioner Battle, before I open to the public, did you want to comment on this? You brought this forward.
Yes, I am concerned that we do something like this, because having worked in the field for some 25 years and knowing that Broward County recently got rid of its Human Rights Department, which was designed, one of the roles that was designed to do was to try to get people together so that we could minimize hate and bigotry in this county. And also the fact that we recently got rid of our Community Relations Board. And I think we need to come out and just express our sentiment by passing such a resolution as this, denouncing hate, extremism, and bigotry, such that we will head off those things like what occurred in Charlottesville, one way or the other. So I'm hoping that we would get a favorable response for this particular resolution.
Anyone from the public care to speak on item number 13?
Betwilla, 2646 Emerald Way Circle. Does anybody need to be convinced to vote yes on this? Because... No. No? Everybody's... Okay, then I'll sit down.
Glenn Sullivan, 2377 Deer Creek Trail, Deerfield Beach, Florida.
I have no problem with an ordinance or a recommendation like this. I do have 2 points that I'd like to make. It's debatable who started the Charlottesville actions. The end result was terrible. If we're going to call out specific names, I would say Antifa would be one that would be added to this. They are being looked at as a terrorist organization in the United States already. The second point is if the commission gives out permits for demonstrations, I'd ask highly that you don't allow a counter demonstration on the same day. And if people do decide to counter demonstrate without a permit, that they're arrested on the spot.
Anyone else from the public? Close the public portion and be heard. Any commission comments? Commissioner Parnas?
I don't think we want to stem or stifle free speech. I think the police are quite capable in this town of handling people that don't want to make a peaceful demonstration. They can handle 85,000 people July 4th on the beach. They certainly can handle a demonstration in Deerfield. I believe in free speech, even if I don't agree with it. So I think it's necessary just to say we don't want hate or bigotry in this town, and a resolution is important.
I make a motion that we pass this resolution denouncing hate, extremism, and bigotry.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
A resolution approving Second Amendment to Tower License Agreement.
Public?
Not seeing anyone from the public? No? Then close the public portion and be heard.
Motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
I have my light on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm
Commissioner
sorry.
Drosky.
I can see it.
I just wanted to confirm with staff, as I typically do on these types of scenarios, that they're comfortable with the terms of the Second Amendment.
Yes, we are. Commissioner Drosky, in fact, we had requested this because of what the original plan was, would have interfered with BSO operations. So we actually asked for this.
Motion to approve.
We had a motion and a second already. Is
Oh.
I'm going to call the vote then? Roll call, please. I
Commissioner-
apologize, Commissioner Drosky.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes.
It's basically a motion to approve submission of a letter of support for Fruitful Field and Parkways Playground Grant as part of the Kaboom Grant application.
Anyone from the public like to speak at item number 15? Not seeing anyone. I'd like to close item number 15. Comments or motion? Vice Mayor Miller?
I think Commissioner Battle brought this forward. I just want to remind you, this is District 1. Thank you for bringing it forward.
Sure.
If you would let me, I would love to make the motion, and you could since it's District 1.
So we have a motion. Do we have a
I'd like to
second?
make a motion, we approve.
I'll second
We
it.
have a second. Commissioner Battle. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gantz?
Yes. Next, we have our addendum to our general items, item number 16, the resolution. I'm sorry, Andy, if you want to read that?
Yes, the resolution of City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach appointing Kathleen Lutz as an alternate to the Marine Advisory Board, providing for the second day.
Anyone from the public care to speak on this item? Not seeing anyone. Like to close the public portion to be heard. Anyone care to make a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion a second. I thank you for that.
I have my light on.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Drosky, go right ahead. I don't know why I keep, you know what? It's next to the podium light. It's throwing me. That I don't really want to hear what you have to say.
I have no objection to this. I'm just curious why it's being, as an add-on. Does she need to be seated right away to this particular board? I mean, I'm not a fan of add-ons. I don't think, it gives the residents an opportunity to review, the backup in time for the meetings. I have no objection to this substantively, but procedurally, you know, add-ons just, it's my pet peeve, and I'm just wondering why we're adding this on at the last minute.
But actually, I'll take part of the blame for that. I was late in getting it for the last commission meeting, so I said, please make sure that we have it on this meeting, and then I'll let Burgess take the rest of the blame for that.
Yeah, there was a slight, we did not process it quickly enough, and because it is a position that was vetted by the nominating party, which in this case is Mayor Gans, we felt that there was no need to delay it till September 19th, so we brought it forward. If it were a contract or something of significance or budgetary impact, we would not bring it forward as an addendum unless it was an emergency. So I did make an exception in this case.
Okay.
And actually, again, Commissioner Drosky, I'll take blame for that and note that in the future that try to eliminate that as much as possible. If I miss the deadline, I miss the deadline. We'll move on. Thank you. With that, we have an order, or excuse me, we have a motion and a second. Can we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Battle?
Yes.
Commissioner Drosky?
No.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Gans?
Yes. I'm going to assume your no has nothing to do with the actual individuals or to make a point.
Correct.
Either way, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, now we have our comments by our city manager and city attorney.
In lieu of Hurricane Irma, I have no comments.
Okay.
No, just
City attorney?
happy to let everyone get to their families.
Absolutely. I'm gonna give up my time also, but I just want to say two quick things if we could. One, we will be bringing forward at the next commission meeting a new parking ordinance that will allow for 4-hour parking along Hillsborough, or excuse me, a limit of 4-hour parking along Hillsborough Boulevard over between the bridge and Federal Highway that doesn't currently consistently exist. And also, I ask everyone to be prepared and be safe, but also be courteous. Help your neighbors. And, you know, that's one thing about Deerfield Beach. Someone talked about the community itself. This is a great community. You know there are people that are either elderly or unable to assist themselves. Please reach out and help your neighbors through this time, and let's hope that the hurricane misses us. Commissioners, is there anything pertinent that you'd like to say, or can we just conclude the meeting?
Just one quick thing. I got a request from Ms. Alvarez for police to help during this time. From what I can gather, during Matthew, we had no police to help to go around in the community getting the people that needed to get to shelters, just warning them to get out. Now it's time to get out, so they're asking that they have at least one patrol to help out this time.
Yeah, there's actually, BSO does do a evacuation list of certain neighborhoods like trailer parks or on the barrier island where there's mandatory evacuations, but there is no operational plan about any other neighborhoods that are not considered critical.
Yeah, that's what she was concerned about, was the trailer parks.
Yes.
So.
Thank you. All right, then let's motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, second. Meeting adjourned.